All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get started with today's reading of Solo Leveling. Today we're going to be checking out chapters 71 through 80, and we're picking up right after Jin essentially was, making a lot of headway in the Demon Castle, and Jino is speaking to his father about becoming the new guild member of uh the uh of the guild that he wanted to be head over. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my words here. Apologies. Let's begin with chapter 71. Jino was taken by surprise. The Red Gate? Why was the story of the Red Gate brought up here, out of the blue? Since the incident had been talked about non-stop in mass media, even Jino knew what had happened. But this timing was suspiciously coincidental, and so he found it difficult to figure out where his father was going with this. And this man here? A man who was supposed to be a survivor of that incident. Why did the survivor that the media was madly scrambling over to find appear here? Jino's curiosity continued to balloon greatly. After staring at his son for a little while, Myung-hwan slowly opened his mouth. Looks like you haven't heard of it yet. Pardon me? Myung-hwan, I keep saying Hwan, but it's Myung-hwan. Myung-hwan disregarded the still confused Jino for the time being and shifted his gaze over to Go Myung-hwan. See, Jino's dad's name is Myung-han, and the dude that's next to him is Myung-hwan. These names. Myung-han disregarded the still confused Jino for the time being and shifted his gaze over to Go Myung-hwan, sitting there in nervousness. Mr. Hunter. Yes, Chairman. Please inform my son who was there besides the White Tiger Guild's new recruits on that day. Understood. Myung-hwan's stare now was directed to Jino. Unintentionally, Jino met Myung-hwan's gaze and a question mark floated up on his face. Myung-hwan opened his mouth. There was a young female hunter who looked to be a high schooler and... A young female hunter? Even then, Jino couldn't imagine just whose name would pop up from Myung-hwan's lips. And Mr. Sung Jinu. Tumble. Jino thought that he could hear his own heart fall to the pit of his stomach. Young Nim was there at the Red Gate incident? What was going on here? He was already feeling quite confused, but now his thought process devolved into an even more complicated mess. In the middle of his confusion, he suddenly remembered something. Wait, now that I think about it, a few days ago... Young Nim was conversing with some familiarity with Han Song-yi, someone whom he didn't even share a casual greeting before that day. Do you still remember the name of that female hunter by any chance? It was Miss Han Song-yi. How can this be? Jino's jaw dropped to the floor. To think there was such a secret to the mysterious relationship between those two people. Wait, if that's the case, then the identity of the potential helper the news outlets were talking about was... As if he knew what Jino was about to ask, Myung-hwan quickly confirmed the truth. We, the members of the White Tiger Guild and Miss Han Song-yi, could escape from the Red Gate all safe and sound thanks to Mr. Sung Jino. Young Nim, just what did you do in there? Jino formed an expression comprised of half surprise and half joy. He even forgot that he was in front of his father and asked out loud, What happened inside the Red Gate? Myung-hwan glanced to his side. to the head of the dining table. Myung-han nodded his head. Myung-hwan carried a face of a man dying to open his mouth until then, and as soon as the permission was given, he began to tell his story with great relish. So, what happened was... Jino's eyes twinkled as he listened. At first, everyone was taken aback somewhat after learning that a pair of Ranky hunters were coming to observe the new recruit training process. But then... Myung-hwan began describing what happened that day with a hyped-up voice reminiscent of a little kid proudly showing off to a friend the brand new toy he got as a gift. However... He did what to a Ranky hunter? Myung-hwan wasn't the only overexcited person in the room. Exactly! With his palm, he went like, "Pah!" He smacked the back of Kim Chol's head and... As he listened to the exploits of young Nim, Jino's heart beat faster as if he was there, experiencing everything personally. As expected of young Nim. To him, hunting down high-ranked monsters was nothing. Well, he could knock out a rank A hunter with a single slap after all. Jino felt so moved and proud at the same time after realizing that such an incredible person had been standing by his side until now. Meanwhile, Myung-hwan continued on with his story. I really thought that we'd die for sure when dozens of ice elves showed up. But then again... Was he paying too close an attention to this story? Time flew by really quickly. The definitely not short story of that day's events was finally coming to its end. I almost fumbled over short there for a moment. Please forgive me. The definitely not short story of that day's events was finally coming to its end. The excited Go Myung-hwan's voice became louder. So, what I'm saying is, this whole thing is just too unfair. Mr. Sung Jin-woo saved our behinds back there. He's my life savior. Jino unconsciously nodded his head in agreement. He could understand where Myung-hwan was coming from. He also had received similar help before, too. But then, I'm not supposed to reveal the existence of Mr. Sung Jin-woo. I find it difficult to accept the decision of the White Tiger Guild. However, Chairman Yu has given me a call out of the blue, and so here I am. It was at this point that Yu stopped Myung-hwan in a dignified manner. Myung-hwan Hunter Nim. Oh wait. Go Myung-hwan Hunter Nim. Yes? I believe that should be sufficient. Ah, my apologies, sir. I got carried away. Myung-hwan embarrassedly lowered his head. Yu's stare then shifted over to his son, Jino. In the process of investigating more about Hunter Sung Jin-woo, a name that I never expected to hear popped up. At the end of Myung-hwan's pointing finger, his index finger pointed to a piece of paper with Jino's name written on it, and it was none other than the raid records Jino handed over to his father. His index finger pointed lower and stopped at the 3 words, Sung Jin-woo next. The raid leader, Yu Jin-oh. The raid member, Sung Jin-woo. Yo, what's going on, Mihai? I will watch the live on 1.5 to catch up. It's all good. You got plenty of time. We're still on chapter 71 right now. The raid leader, Yu Jin-oh. The raid member, Sung Jin-woo. This was irrefutable evidence. I'm busted. The truth about young Nim helping him out during the process of acquiring his guildmaster license was now out in the open. Jino's expression hardened. Hunter Sung Jin-woo aided you greatly during your attempt to earn the guildmaster license. Do you acknowledge this fact? Yes, Father. Is there anything else you want to add? And there's silence. Jino's vision darkened. Now that the matter of young Nim lending aid was out in the open, it was impossible to convince his father that he was the right person to take on the position of the Yujin Guild's new master. He sensed his father's strict eyes bearing down on him. In the past, being subjected to that withering glare, Jinno would lose all strength in his legs. However, he couldn't give up like this. For the first time ever, Jinno summoned his courage in front of his father. He lowered his head and raised his voice. "Can you entrust the Yujin Guild to me, father?" "I will." Eh? At that refreshingly simple answer, Jinno hurriedly raised his head. "I shall entrust the Yujin Guild to you." "But why?" "Didn't you say it yourself? It is too risky to entrust the guild to an outsider. With you here, is there a reason to take on that risk now?" But I tried to deceive you, father." "You thought I'd scold you and kick you out because of that?" What was going on here? Jinno thought that his father was smiling for some reason, but Myung-han's lips would always remain in a straight smile, no matter what the occasion was. So how come? "If you entered the dungeons without any plans whatsoever, then I'd have done just that. Because I don't remember raising an idiot's son like that." Jinno's face became hot at that moment. "If I hadn't met young Nim, then I'd be getting scolded by father right about now." No, wait. He'd be dead long before that. Jinno spat out a sigh of relief inwardly. "However, I have a condition." "Yes, father." "This hunter Sung Jinu. Can you bring him over to Eugene?" Jinno's eyes opened wider. "You mean young Nim?" "Young Nim." The light within Myung-han's eyes flickered a little just then, but that didn't last for long. "That's correct." Jinno became speechless then. Even a snot-nosed brat would know that now was the right time to confidently say something in order to leave behind a positive impression. However, finally caught up, no counts of swallowing saliva yet, but plenty of dead air because of construction that's carrying on outside. So I had to mute a couple of times because they got some heavy machinery out here. Well, in the vicinity of the neighborhood. So sorry about that. Don't worry, it'll be edited out in post. The light within Myung-han's eyes flickered a little just then, but that didn't last for long. "That's correct." Jinno became speechless then. Oh wait, I gotta go back to... Even a snot-nosed brat would know that now was the right time to confidently say something in order to leave behind a positive impression. However, the one they were talking about was none other than young Nim. Jinno could ask, sure, but he wasn't confident of anything else besides. So he replied honestly. "I can't be certain." "Very good. There's no meaning if the challenge is too easy for you." The chairman, Yu Myung-han, took a sip of water and lightly wiped the corners of his lips with a handkerchief. "If you fail, I shall hand over the guild to your brother. So how about it? Will you accept?" Jinno's expression became grave. This is the shot I struggled so hard to get. If he backed out now, then he wouldn't be able to show himself in front of young Nim, who helped him right until the end for this opportunity. Jinno became deeply earnest as he replied, "I accept, father." "Good." With that reply, the negotiation between a father and a son had come to a conclusion. Myung-han wordlessly nodded his head, and Jinno stood up, bowed his waist, and left the room. Myung-han took the handkerchief away from his lips. It was getting harder to suppress the smile trying to form on his lips. This kid. This boy wanted Yujin Guild. He suspected something was up when they agreed to meet today, but he didn't expect his son to be this daring. Indeed, a tiger's cub is still a tiger at the end of the day. The smile finally began to spread on Myung-han's lips. That famous chairman Yu Myung-han is actually smiling! Myung-hwan's eyes were growing large as he witnessed everything. The widely known nickname of Chairman Yu Myung-han was Poker Face. He was famed for never showing any emotion whatsoever, whether it be a joyful occasion or a sorrowful one. When Myung-hwan continued to stare utterly mystified, Chairman Yu turned to him and asked, "Hunter Nim, was there anything you wanted to add?" Suddenly, finding himself on the receiving end of that stare, Myung-hwan got flustered and hurriedly shook his head. "No, not at all." 47, 48, 49, 50. With a frightening clearing speed, Jin climbed up the floors.
You have killed the mid-ranked demon. You have earned 300 experience points. You have acquired 1 soul of demons. You have killed the mid-ranked demon. You have killed the mid-ranked demon.
He didn't feel tired at all when looking at the total experience points and the accumulated number of souls climbing up higher every time he hunted a monster down.
Collected number of souls, 4,388 out of 10,000.
It's not even at the halfway mark yet, huh? He had been endlessly hunting demons down ever since entering this place, but as expected, the wall of 10,000 souls was indeed high, and difficult to overcome. However, what about his level? Level 69. In the space of 1 day, it had risen by another 2. The leveling up speed had slowed down compared to the beginning, but it could still be considered as blistering when looking at the rate of collecting the required souls. Even now, the experience points were quietly piling up.
Killed the mid-ranked demon. You have earned 300 experience points. You have collected 1 soul of...
Whew. After finishing off the last demon still standing before his eyes, Jin stretched his back and scanned his surroundings. Beneath the confidence-inspiring shadow soldiers standing around him, the countless corpses of mid-ranked demons could be seen littering the ground. Jin smiled deeply and clapped his hands. Nice work. The soldiers who fought hard for him all returned to his shadow in an instant. The magic crystal could be collected by them, sure, but loot had to be manually collected by Jin.
Will you take?
Well, he had to manually click yes on every system message that popped into his view. That was why. This is a bit cumbersome, isn't it? So, that was why when there weren't that many, okay, these words, they want to mess with me today. So that's why when there weren't that many demons, he took care of them himself real fast. And when there were in a big group like this time, he fought together with his soldiers. As soon as the battle was over, he'd start collecting the loot right away. Just what's so fun about this that Jino insisted on doing it? Jin extracted a piece of loot from the dead demon and smirked to himself. There was one more cumbersome thing about this place. It was impossible to extract shadows inside the demon's castle. Didn't matter whether it was a mid-ranked or low-ranked. The black fog-like thing that denoted if he could perform the shadow extraction or not didn't rise up from the demon's corpses. Even when I'm staring at the remains, too.
This mana is tainted. It's impossible to perform shadow extraction.
Nope. He only got some messages saying that he couldn't extract shadows because mana was supposedly tainted. Is there anything I can do about this? Just as Jin scanned the remains of the demons with a helpless expression on his face, a new message popped into his view.
Ta-ring! You have discovered 29 items. Horns of mid-ranked demons. Will you take all?
Jin grinned brightly. Of course. Jin quickly shook away the regret he felt over the shadow extraction problem with the help from the abundant loot falling on his lap. Nothing I can use directly among the pile, eh? In that case, sell them all. As soon as he sold off all the Japtem, more gold got neatly deposited into his bank balance.
Current gold, 914,690,772.
Jin checked his inventory without thinking too much, only for his eyes to shoot open real wide. The amount of gold sitting pretty in there had shot past 900 million already. Well, each pair of demon's horns are worth about 200,000, and I hunted down well over 4,000, so... Not to forget, he also sold off other unnecessary Japtem on his way here as well, so it was understandable that gold would accumulate at a frightening pace. Should I buy a rarity-S weapon or armor? Before long, though, Jin shook his head. He wasn't in a need for one, so no real need to force himself to spend money just because he had some. Right. There will come a time when I need to splurge on something. Jin closed the inventory window and lightly dusted his hands. He was done with cleaning up his surroundings. He had procured the important entry permit for the 51st floor a long time ago, so the only thing remaining was to get to the floor transfer magic circle and go upstairs, but... Jin's sight shifted towards the pillar of light, more specifically, a short distance in front of that pillar. And a massive demon, plus scores of high-ranked demons, were standing there, waiting. Jin raised his sight up higher, and he could see the giant demon's name floating in the air in a deep crimson hue. The sovereign of the lower floors, the avaricious Vulcan. That thing consisted of a huge mess of fatty flesh that must have weighed dozens of tons. No, maybe even several hundred instead. And then, the massive club this thing was holding in hand looked rather horrifying as well. However, a smile was etched on Jin's face. So, that's the mid-boss of this place, huh? He held only the nicest memories of the bosses found inside the instant dungeons. They all gave him plenty of experience points as well as wonderful items. Compared to the boss-level monsters found in regular dungeons that required lots of hard work to kill, but little reward to show for it, these boss monsters of instant dungeons were more like boxes of gifts, all nicely wrapped up. So then, what items would that guy cough up? Jin smiled brightly and began drooling. I don't know if this counts. This doesn't count as swallow his saliva, but drooling is kind of on the line there. But that is the end of chapter 71. Onwards to chapter 72, and I need to make up for lost time. Chapter 72. Should I get started then? Shadow soldiers were summoned behind Jin. Not just the regular foot soldiers, but also the magic soldiers, the beast soldiers, as well as the two knights, too. And in front of them stood Jin. Doesn't count in my opinion? Yeah, I don't think it counts. It's on the line of same category, but not exactly the same, so it doesn't count. So we still don't have a notch on the counter today. Strange. The two knights strode forward and stood on either side of him. Jin took a glance at Icarus on his right, an iron to his left, and a grin formed on his lips. Feels so reassuring. Even though this was his own skill, the fact that he had comrades watching his back helped greatly to calm his mind. However, still, it's a bit too much to go with a frontal assault, isn't it? The whole thing looked kind of dangerous. And that was all thanks to that wooden-looking club held tight in Vulcan's grip. It's just unbelievable that a tree that big actually existed, right? He guessed from the size of Vulcan and the wooden club that one swing from the demon would be enough to wipe away his entire platoon. It's fine if they get swept away, but The real problem would be the MP required to regenerate the fallen soldiers. Without a doubt, continuously regenerating his soldiers that got repeatedly obliterated by that thick, blunt weapon would bottom out his MP in no time at all. In that case, there was only one way to do this. I'll have to take care of the boss. In other words, he'd let his boys deal with Vulcan's underlings, while he himself would fight the boss. This was the best plan he could think of. Well, all I have to do is hunt it without getting hit. Unlike with his soldiers, Jin was confident of dodging Vulcan's attacks. In order for his plan to work, though, he had to separate Vulcan from his underlings first. Jin ordered his magic soldiers to initiate the assault first. Use the range attacks to summon Vulcan's lackeys over here first, and I'll fight that big guy lumbering along in the rear. It was a simple enough plan to carry out. Now, when Jin gave his signal, flames flew out from the hands of the magic soldiers. Kaboom! The flames exploded near the subordinates of Vulcan, signaling the beginning of the operation.
The sovereign of the lower floors, the avaricious Vulcan, has discovered the intruder. Vulcan's loyal guard has discovered. Vulcan's loyal guard has discovered.
The warning beeps resounded out in his head at a frightening pace, and at the same time, Vulcan and its lackeys all turned their heads towards Jin and his army. All right. He succeeded in drawing their attention. In order to hit Vulcan coming up from the lackey's rear without getting discovered, Jin activated stealth and hid himself. Everything seemed to be unfolding according to plan. That's what he thought, but then... Thud, 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 thud! Vulcan broke his expectation and bolted forward like a streak of lightning. What the heck? What is up with that movement? It's like I'm looking at video footage sped up several times. Quite literally, in the blink of an eye, Vulcan had ran past its lackeys and arrived before the Shadow Soldiers. Oh crap! Jin's eyes widened considerably. This demon with a huge mountain-sized body mass managed to exceed his imaginations. Vulcan lifted the club up high. Just before the club pointing to the sky fell down on the defenseless magic soldiers, Iron jumped out of nowhere and raised his black shield. The attack was defended against somehow, but both arms of Iron were shattered into pieces. The sturdiest, toughest among the Shadow Soldiers couldn't withstand a single attack and was rendered unable to fight any further. Scatter! The shattered pieces of Iron's arms fell to the ground and scattered away. Perhaps finding its previous attack not to its liking, Vulcan tilted its head this way and that while staring deeply at its club. But that was only for a brief period. The bastard slammed down with the club once more. Iron, who had lost all means to defend himself, as well as the magic soldiers behind him, were crushed to oblivion next. Crack! Witnessing that event unfold, something inside Jin loudly snapped in two. This crazy jerk dares to. He says something else, but I don't use profanity. Jin bit his lower lip. What he did next wasn't because his head told him to do it. When he regained his senses, he was already in midair, leaping towards Vulcan. His target was already set, and that would be that surprisingly beady little head attached atop the mountainous body. Jin twisted his body in midair. The muscles of his shoulder and the arm cocked rearward ballooned up. When he focused all his might on his clenched right fist, stealth came undone automatically. Belatedly, Vulcan discovered Jin. Too bad. Jin's fist was not slow enough for the giant monster to dodge when it was already near its nose. His fist punched out like a bullet and slammed into the side of Vulcan's face. Kaboom! Vulcan was flung away. The giant demon rolled away on the ground for a long, long time before crashing into the skeletal remains of a building and came to a stop. Rumble, crash! Then the barely standing remains all tumbled on top of Vulcan, burying the demon underneath. Tap. Jin lightly landed back on the ground, his eyes quite wide open. Why did it fly away that easily? Unable to comprehend what just happened, he stared at his own fist in disbelief. He couldn't even spot a single nick or a scratch on his fist that managed to blow away such a huge creature. And then he suddenly recalled something. Now that I think about it. Jin raised his head. He summoned the stat window and it quickly floated up there. Stats: Strength 150, Endurance 109, Agility 139, Intelligence 109, Perception 11. That's how it was. He may have learned several assassin-related skills and his class was set as a magic type, so he had been forgetting about a crucial part until now. Strength 150. He had been using up all the spare stat points on intelligence, yet strength was still ahead by 1.5 times. Well, I really did invest in strength blindly, didn't I? On top of this, his level had increased explosively as well. Just from checking out each of his stats, he could definitely feel the results of all that grinding. One of those results was this. Jin stared at Vulcan, still buried underneath the rubble with a dumbfounded face, before a wry chuckle left his lips. Huh. It was hard to feel it when he was busy massacring the regular monsters, the lower-ranked and mid-ranked demons. But after punching the boss-level creature, he was certain of it now. I've definitely become stronger. Clench. He felt strength flowing into his clenched fists. Heightened excitement filled every inch of his body. It was then the familiar mechanical bleep rang inside his head. What was that? Jin raised his head. The fallen Vulcan used the club to prop itself and stood up from the rebel. Did the warning chime go off because the monster is still getting up? Was his system that friendly to begin with? As Jin tilted his head, the culprit for that beep popped up in front of his eyes.
The sovereign of the lower floors, the avaricious Vulcan, has activated skill. Rage.
Kring, ring, ring. The warning chime went in his head one after the other.
The rage state will be continuously maintained. All of Vulcan's stats will be increased by 50%. Vulcan will feel less pain.
Is that skill from... Even before Jin managed to recall the memories of Cerberus, Vulcan, with its two reddened eyes, rushed towards him like an unstoppable tidal wave. Thud, 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 thud! The ground rumbled, accompanied with the loud rumbling footsteps. Jin sneaked a glance behind him. Vulcan's lackeys were currently engaged in a bitter battle with the shadow soldiers there. In the midst of this confusing melee, Jin could still locate Iron. The impact force must have been too great because Iron was still in the middle of regeneration. Iron! Jin called out. Iron quickly threw his shield to Jin. After catching the shield, Jin shifted his glance away to find Vulcan standing right before him. If I back off here, my soldiers will get wiped out. Yo, hi Dragon, good to see you. Without his soldiers, it'd become far too difficult to hunt down Vulcan and its subordinates. So, Jin chose the method that could ensure the safety of his soldiers. He raised the shield, and his arm muscles tensed up. Shortly thereafter, Vulcan slammed down with its club. Slam! Clang! Boom! Fearsome attacks that rocked the earth landed several times in a row without rest, but Jin patiently endured them all. His high physical defense and endurance stat allowed him to block these attacks. When its attacks did not work, Vulcan became even more frenzied and pounded away with that massive club. Slam, clang, boom, kaboom! However, Jin was steadfast and his knees buckled not even once. Still, standing around like this, blocking all the time, wouldn't let him hunt the boss down. Deep frowns formed on Jin's forehead. The thing was, unlike how it was with Cerberus, Vulcan's rage skill didn't have a time limit, the trade-off being the skill not as overpowered as the Gatekeeper's version. Meaning, he couldn't remain passively defending forever like this. Slam! Boom! I gave myself the hiccups. Slam! Boom! Jin gritted his teeth. Constantly getting pounded on isn't my thing either. Quang! Just as the club bounced off of the shield for the last time, Jin had been getting ready to counterattack and took the opening to leap towards Vulcan's head. However, he wasn't the only one waiting for an opening. Matching the timing of Jin's jump, Vulcan quickly leaned its upper torso back. What? And then the club flew in towards him from the side while drawing an arc in the air. He got me. If there were places where his hands or feet could touch, the story might have been different, but there was no way he'd be able to dodge the attack in the middle of air. And, even if he managed to block it, who knew just where he would end up from the rebound? As the time slowed down in his perception, Jin stared at the club approaching ever closer and leaked out a groan. A way. There must be a way. If he could move his body, then surely he'd be able to dodge this no problem. When his thoughts arrived at this point. Moving my body? An idea suddenly popped up in his head. There was no time to think about this. As soon as the idea formed in his head, Jin activated the skill Ruler's Reach and pushed at Vulcan. Of course, the power behind the skill Ruler's Reach was far too low to move the massive body of Vulcan. However, the rebound meant that it was Jin who was pushed back instead. The tip of the club missed him by a hair's breadth. I did it! Jin was flung away some distance and rolled on the ground a few times, but compared to what might have happened when hit by that club, his landing this time could be seen as far, far gentler. Whew. Jin managed to find his balance and sighed in relief. On the other hand, Vulcan's expression had crumpled quite unsightly. It attacked, feeling proud and all, but in the end it was all for nothing. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome. We are currently going through Chapter 72 of Solo Leveling. Sit back and relax. On the other hand, Vulcan's expression had crumpled quite unsightly. It attacked, feeling proud and all, but in the end it was all for nothing. That fact caused its fury to reach the peak. Jin scratched the side of his head while staring at Vulcan's reddened face. Now what shall I do about this? If he jumped to its front, the darn thing would evade him with not much difficulty. But then, attacking other body parts instead of its head didn't look like he'd be able to critically wound it, what with all those layers of flesh getting in the way. Is there a way to make it impossible to dodge?
It was at this point that yet another, and an arguably excellent idea, popped up in his head. The corners of Jin's lips arched up. Suddenly, he turned around and ran. Vulcan mistook this action as him trying to escape and hurriedly chased after him.
Rumble, thud, thud, thud!
Jin moderated his running speed so Vulcan could chase after him. As soon as he discovered a suitable remnant of a building, his eyes began gleaming brightly.
That one.
On the other hand, when the distance between Vulcan and Jin closed up, the giant demon lifted its club high up in the air behind it. To squash this bug-like creature. Finally, the chance to crush this annoying pest once and for all was here. A disgusting smile formed on Vulcan's face. And so, as the club came down with a whoosh, the insect-like creature suddenly sped up and ran up on the outer wall of the destroyed building. Something felt wrong here, but it was too late for the demon to slow down the descent of the club. In an instant, the insect had run up high enough to be at the demon's eye line before he powerfully kicked the wall. Crack! As the spiderweb-like crack spread on the wall, something shot towards this demon with never-before-seen speed. It was none other than that insect. Vulcan's eyes grew wider. A smile spread on Jin's face as he looked into those large eyes. The Baruka's dagger, gripped tightly in his right hand, sliced past the bulging artery of Vulcan's neck. Slice! From the blood vessel as thick as a grown man, blood spurted out like an overflowing mountain. Vulcan hurriedly discarded the club and tried to stem the loss of blood with both of its hands. Unfortunately, it was insufficient to block the overflowing of blood. At that moment, there was a visible tremor shaking Vulcan's eyes. Before it had time to notice it, Jin had climbed up the demon's back and buried the blades of his daggers deeply into that thick neck.
I guess once isn't enough, huh?
Jin tilted his head and pulled the daggers out before activating his skill once more.
Vital points targeting.
2 daggers stabbed deeply into Vulcan's neck again. Stab! Stab! Only then did the messages he was waiting for pop up.
Ta-ring! You have killed the sovereign of the lower floors, the avaricious Vulcan. You have earned 150,000 experience points. The souls of demons trapped inside Vulcan's stomach have been released. You have acquired 72 soul of demons. Level up. Level up.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of Chapter 72. Onwards to Chapter 73. Chapter 73.
Thud.
Sorry, I was answering a message.
Thud.
Vulcan fell to the ground hard. Jin relaxedly walked out from the thick, ash-gray dust clouds rising up and took a look around him. He was thinking of assisting the shadow soldiers right away. But even they seemed to be getting close to finishing up as well. As the shadow soldiers hacked away with their swords, the number of Vulcan's underlings rapidly decreased.
Status.
Jin studied his status window. Since he had leveled up only a moment ago, both his HP and MP were full.
I've plenty of mana, so I don't really need to help out, huh?
As long as there was sufficient mana, shadow soldiers would be exactly like immortals. Now that was the true power of an undead army. Leaving the mop-up of the remnants to his trusty soldiers, Jin turned around in order to collect the loot. Was this feeling similar to unwrapping a gift? Seeing that dead body of Vulcan, a smile automatically formed on his lips.
I wonder what'll come out this time.
He could spy several lights sparkling on the body. Just like before, Jin extended his hands towards the lights. Then, item acquisition messages popped up in his view.
Ding! You have discovered item, Demon Sovereign's Earrings. Will you take it? You have discovered item, Bead of Avarice. Will you take it? You have discovered item, Vulcan's Horns ×2. Will you take it? You have discovered material item, Fragment of the World Tree. Will you take it?
He had been feeling rather optimistic about fighting Vulcan even before the battle started. And as he expected, items were quite literally pouring out from the dead demon. Having checked the list only once, Jin's face was brightening up considerably already.
I can pretty much tell that Vulcan's horn should be Japtem.
From its name to the total number he found, it wasn't that hard to guess that Vulcan's horns were Japtem only good for additional gold, just like the demon's horns he got after killing various demons. Which meant the remaining 3 were the real items. And there was this one item that attracted his attention more than the others.
You have discovered material item, Fragment of the World Tree. Will you take it?
What is this material item thing?
What could he possibly make with something like that? Or was the system trying to imply that it might be something related to a quest? Jin's curiosity roused from its slumber after reading about a type of item he hadn't heard of before. If he wanted to read the explanations on the items, he had to acquire them first. So, he chose yes on all the item acquisition messages.
Take them all.
The lights glittering from different parts of Vulcan all morphed into items and appeared near his feet as soon as he said that. A pair of earrings, a red marble-like object, and timber as big as a grown woman. He could immediately tell which one was the fragment of the world tree among them. Jin looked at the timber. When he did, the information on the item popped up.
Material item, Fragment of the World Tree. Rarity, unknown. Type, material. Remaining part of Vulcan's club, originally fashioned out of a branch of the World Tree after the contaminated portion had been removed. Timber from the World Tree possesses extraordinary magical energy and is seen as top material for the crafting of the very best magic tools available.
Top material for the very best magic tool, is it?
He was curious about just what could be made from this piece of wood, but too bad. It wasn't disclosed. Still, there was no doubt this thing was no ordinary item. Simply by standing near it, he could sense a powerful aura coming off of it.
This timber. I think it'll come in handy later.
Instead of selling off this fragment of World Tree to the store, he decided to store it in his inventory. After he finished doing that, Jin confirmed the details on the other loot as well.
Item, Demon Sovereign's Earrings. Rarity, S. Type, accessory. Endurance +20. Stamina +20. When worn together with Demon Sovereign's necklace and Demon Sovereign's ring, set bonuses will be unlocked. Set bonus 1, locked. Set bonus 2, locked.
This one has hidden set bonuses?
If only its additional stat boosts were concerned, then it was not that different from the Gatekeeper's necklace in terms of usefulness, but this Demon Sovereign's earrings had hidden set bonus effects as well. Even if those set bonuses were ignored, the item itself was still quite brilliant. Both his endurance and stamina got a boost of 20 points, which was considerable.
Every level up gives me 5 stat points, so...
He'd need to level up 8 times to get that many stat points, in other words. Feeling genuinely pleased now, Jin picked the earrings up.
Will you equip Demon Sovereign's earrings?
Equip.
Just like with other items, earrings disappeared from the view, but their options still activated with no problem. A satisfied smile formed on Jin's face after confirming the rise in his stats. So, the accessory set of a demon sovereign, then.
Other accessories should be around here somewhere, right?
What with the word demon in their names, he could easily guess that those items must be somewhere inside the demon's castle. Just what kind of set bonuses would be unlocked if he managed to find the other two? He had found only one part of the set, but there was nothing he could do about his anticipation soaring higher. However, Jin's smile didn't last for long.
What is this now?
Item: Orb of Avarice.
I'm going to call it the Orb of Avarice, because that's just what I'm used to.
Rarity: Orb of Avarice. Rarity: A. Type: Magic tool. Bead created by solidifying superior demon Vulcan's blood. Will strengthen all magical effects and cause greater damage. Effect: Appetite for Destruction. ×2 magic damage.
It was a spherical red object the size of a billiard ball. Jin tightly grasped the bead of avarice, orb of avarice, but there was no change to his stats. He then summoned and checked the class-related skill windows, since those were the only things that could be called magic in his repertoire. But he saw no change to the number of shadows he could extract, nor the number that could be stored.
Maybe it's not something I can use?
Jin's head tilted this way and that. An increase of 100% in magic damage. That kind of performance was quite incredible indeed. Now, originally, tools that boosted magic cost an arm and a leg, so only a few mage-type hunters could afford to use them. Even then, Jin had never heard of an item that could double the power of magic among all those uber-expensive artifacts. If there were, then it'd be utter chaos, with headlines and special reports and whatnot. So there was no way he'd be unaware of one until now. However, this bead of avarice, or whatever, could supposedly double the amount of magic damage.
But so what? It doesn't really help me anyway.
Jin clicked his lips. An item that doubled magic damage but did nothing else would not have an effect on him. Both his shadow extraction and shadow storage had nothing to do with damaging something to begin with, and the rest of his skills weren't magic related either. At this point, he'd rather prefer to have an item that raised his intelligence stat instead. Tsk. Jin formed a wistful expression and lightly tossed the bead of avarice up and down in the air. Meanwhile, his soldiers arrived near him one by one, after taking down Vulcan's remaining underlings. The first one to arrive was Igris. In the right hand, 3, and another 3 in the left. He carried a total of 6 demon heads and placed them before Jin. Jin looked at Igris kneeling before him and scratched the side of his head.
Hey, man, can't you stop doing that?
Of course, Igris and his gravely lowered head didn't reply.
Because of you.
Jin's gaze slowly shifted over to Iron. Nobody could tell just when he did it, but Iron had cut Vulcan's head off and dragged it all the way to Jin before kneeling on the ground.
This guy is starting to imitate you, you know.
More importantly, Jin hunted Vulcan down, not Iron. Jin spat out a long groan while keeping his stare fixed to Iron. It was at this point that an amusing idea popped up in his head.
Just like how I use Iron's shield, maybe I should try and let these guys use this orb of avarice?
What a good timing it was, since he spotted the magic soldiers slowly walking behind the regular infantrymen. They were far slower compared to normal shadow soldiers, never mind the 2 knights. Jin summoned the first of the 3 magic soldiers to arrive in the vicinity. When he beckoned with his hand, the magic soldier decked out in the black robe hurriedly walked towards him.
Maybe I should go there myself.
Jin lightly shook his head and took long strides towards the magic soldier before handing over the Orb of Avarice, and then pointed at the remnant of the building he used to run up during his battle against Vulcan. Since all Shadow soldiers could be controlled via his will, he didn't really need to issue in any particular commands here. Jin simply gave the signal.
Fire.
Right at that moment, a ball of flames that was double the size of the usual attack suddenly materialized at the tip of the magic soldier's raised hand. Jin's eyes opened super wide. Without giving him enough time to get shocked, the ball of flames quickly flew out from the magic soldier's hand. Kaboom!
Huh?
Jin's jaw dropped to the floor. The building was swept up in the grand explosion and collapsed like a house of cards. And the ferocity of the burning flames didn't show any signs of weakening at all afterwards. Jin stared in pure shock at the roaring flames before he hurriedly took the Orb of Avarice back from the magic soldier. He then quickly checked the item information once more.
It's not there. It's definitely not there.
He went through the explanation several times to make sure, but without a doubt, there was nothing about him being prevented from lending this Orb of Avarice to someone else. Didn't this mean he could potentially sell this item? Jin swallowed his dry saliva. Our first one of the day, and it's already been an hour. That's our first one for the day. Jin swallowed his dry saliva before his gaze shifted back to the burning building.
Rumble, crackle.
Yet another part of the still burning building issued a loud rumble and collapsed to the ground. Seeing that, the corners of Jin's lips began quivering uncontrollably.
Well now, this is...
Mage-type hunters would definitely go mad with greed over this thing. His previous wistful look was long gone by now, replaced by the expression of anticipation slowly filling up his face. In the middle of a sunny afternoon...
The young man from the apartment 902, you say?
And Auntie tilted her head and replied a short while later.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen him lately.
Ah, is that so? Thank you for your help.
Hyun Ki-chul lowered his head and said thanks. It had been 4 days since he began waiting for Hunter Sung Jin-woo near the youth's old apartment building. However, he hadn't run into his target until now. At this point, Ki-chul was beginning to feel that making veggie juice every morning was a bit of a waste now. He let out a helpless sigh and pulled his phone out. Shortly afterwards, the recipient answered the call.
Section Chief.
The recipient was, of course, the section chief Ah Song-min.
Sung Jin-woo Hunter Neem is nowhere to be seen. Residents of the building say they haven't seen him here lately either. Yes, sir. Understood.
Galick.
San-min ended the call and tilted his head. Just where did Sung Jin-woo go to? No one could contact him for the past few days now. Wondering if he was avoiding phone calls for the time being, Song-min had dispatched Yu Ki-chul over to where Jin lived, but the news wasn't good. No one had seen the young hunter for a while. Song-min couldn't help but wonder if something strange had happened. Yeah, if something strange had happened. I can't figure out why I should be worried about him, though. In any case, this kind of felt rather weird to him. Tap, tap. Someone tapped... Sorry, I was reading the previous one again. Someone tapped him on the shoulder, and when he turned around to look, he found Hunter Park Hui-jin standing to his side. She opened her mouth first.
Apparently, he told his little sister that he'd be going on a trip with his friend for a week or so.
You mean Sung Jinu Hunter Neem said that?
Yes.
In that case, he's probably not on Earth anymore.
Pardon?
Hui Jin's eyes opened wide. Song Min quickly explained himself. We haven't found any evidence of him going overseas, and there's no record of him drawing money from his bank or using his credit card either.
You can even find out things like that?
Well, it's our job to follow around various hunters after all.
Oh my god.
Anyways, on top of this, according to the association's last known location records, the communication with his phone was cut off in the middle of the city as well. And that happened about 5 days ago. Doesn't all of this sound too mysterious to you?
He couldn't have been kidnapped, right?
Hui Jin inadvertently voiced her worry in the ensuing confusion. However, the gazes of the two people soon met and they began chuckling almost at the same time. It was hard to tell who started first. Seriously now, just who was Sung Jinu? He was none other than a hunter who soloed a high-ranking dungeon. Not only that, a red gate to boot. Song Min scratched his cheek and spoke up. If you want to kidnap Sung Jinu Hunter Neem, well, you'd need at least the rumored Chinese Special Forces to show up. You know, the ones supposedly made up entirely of high-ranking hunters. Hui Jin nodded her head in agreement. Song Min continued to grin, but then found something rather odd and asked her. By the way, how did you find out about him going on a trip?
Ah, that. It's from Han Song Yi. I talk to her often, you see. She goes to the same school with Mr. Sung Jinu's little sister, so I asked her for a favor.
Aha. With Song Min's reply, their conversation came to an abrupt end. And then, they began thinking the exact same thing. Just where did that guy disappear to? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 73. Onwards to chapter 74. I'll take a short break at 75, and then we'll continue on until we get all the way to 80, and then we'll call it a session. Chapter 74.
The upper floors are altogether on a different level, aren't they?
Jin began recalling the first and so far the only boss-level monster he had encountered since he set foot inside the demon's castle, Vulcan. That guy's title was the Sovereign of the lower floors. As soon as he went past the 50th floor that demon resided in, the difficulty curve suddenly spiked up. Before this, he could climb up over 10 floors in a day, as much as 20 even. But his clearing speed had decreased so much so that he found it hard to even clear 7 or 8 floors in a day now. He was currently standing on the 74th floor. The higher-ranked demons now appeared as regular mobs now, and along with the infrequently spotted superior demons, these two types of monsters displayed sizes and abilities that were worlds apart from those found on the lower floors. Stab! A high-ranked demon the size of a 2-story building slowly collapsed on the ground with a dagger stuck to its chest. Slam!
You have defeated a high-ranked demon. You have earned 1,700 experience points. You have acquired 1 soul of demons.
Jin pulled the Baruka's dagger out from the dead demon's chest. This was the last one. Yet another battle had come to an end. The victorious shadow soldiers crowded around Jin as well. Jin surveyed their conditions. There was no way that this was true for an undead army, but for some reason, he thought they all kind of looked exhausted. Indeed, that was how strong the monsters had been on the upper floors. Actually, this last battle happened to be on the easier side simply because no superior demons showed up.
Each one of those guys is on the level of a boss.
This wasn't some random guess he just cooked up without any evidence either. The bead of avarice, orb of avarice, he got after killing Vulcan. The explanation attached to this marble-like item said that it was created from condensing and solidifying the superior demon Vulcan's blood. If those words superior demon denoted Vulcan's grade, then it was about on the same level as regular monsters found on the upper floors. Because, since the 70th floor, superior demons appeared far more often than not.
Well, it'd be fine if it were only the monster's levels that had been increased, but
No, there was another problem here as well. The surroundings began changing gradually the higher he climbed. From the 51st floor onwards, the ruined cityscapes were burning in flames. And the higher the floor, the fiercer the flames got. When these words, sorry, I'm just needed to stretch just a bit. When it tells me to do that, I need to do that. But we're good. And the higher the floor, the fiercer the flames got. When he finally went past the 70th floor, the surroundings had gotten so hot that simply from standing still, he lost stamina like sweating drops pouring out of his pores. Just from moving for a tiny bit, his tiredness stat shot up. This place was no demon's castle, but more like the burning castle. The feeling he got before entering this dungeon was proven to be correct.
let's get out of here.
This was as far as he could go this time. He urgently needed to find a way to block out the flames first.
Looks like I'll have to find an artifact that can defend against fire-type magic.
Equipment used by high-rank hunters was ruinously expensive, and there was no need to even mention the cost of an item imbued with defensive magic as well. He remembered hearing that a really expensive item could go for several tens of billions of won from a news program in the past. He managed to earn a fair amount of coin while clearing dungeons with Jinno, but even then, he couldn't help but worry a bit about whether he'd be able to afford an artifact like that or not. That was why he needed insurance.
Selling this guy should be more than enough.
Jin smiled while looking at the Orb of Avarice he oh so carefully tucked inside his inventory. Any mage-type hunter would drool non-stop at this item. How much would this Orb of Avarice go for if he put it up for auction? He guessed that, as long as he could properly demonstrate its effect, high-ranking hunters would form a long queue in order to buy it. Jin unsummoned the inventory window. The goal for entering this dungeon, to level up lots, had been successfully met. That was why he didn't feel too bad about delaying the clearing of the dungeon to another time. However, one thing did make him hesitate a little. Jin's gaze drifted upwards.
Collected souls of demons. 9,624 out of 10,000.
Less than 400 souls remaining.
If he could collect a little more of these souls of demons, then he'd be able to clear this quest. And today just so happened to be the 6th day. One more day should be enough to clear this quest. One of the advantages of the upper floors was that killing a single demon netted him multiple souls, meaning collecting 400 should be a cinch.
I'll go home after clearing the quest.
Making up his mind, Jin turned around. Maybe because he had a clear goal now, his steps felt doubly energetic.
Floor 1 to 74 have been opened. Which floor would you like to transfer to?
Jin stood in the middle of the magic elevator, no, floor transfer magic circle, and spoke up.
75th floor.
What kind of good fortune was this? A smile spread on Jin's face as he stared at the monster guarding the distant floor transfer magic circle.
The guardian of the departed souls, Metis.
Just from looking at that name alone, he could tell that the monster was a boss. Also, that guy was very eye-catching, what with it wearing a jet black robe and a shiny silver necklace.
I'm sure that is the Demon Sovereign's necklace.
He originally was thinking of completing the quest, but at this rate he should get to collect another part of the set equipment too. However, That item wasn't the only thing making Jin smile here. Even if it was a monster that would cough up some great loot, it'd be meaningless if he couldn't hunt it. Jin grasped his 2 daggers tightly and then ran forward. Soon enough, the skeletal mage, decked out in the black robe, discovered Jin's presence.
Tring! The guide of the departed souls, Metis, has discovered the intruder.
Fitting for a boss-level monster, it instantly finished chanting its magic spell. As soon as a crimson magic circle formed beneath its feet, an ominous aura rushed all around it.
The guide of the departed souls, Metis, has activated skill, a cursed voice.
Heeding Metis' call, an army of undead slowly rose up from the ground, and they numbered several thousand. A normal person would have been left breathless by the sight of this horrifying enemy, but when he found himself surrounded by so many enemies, Jin didn't even panic for a second.
As I thought.
Just as he expected, there were endless streams of black smoke rising up all around the boss monster. Seeing that, it wasn't all that difficult to guess what kind of monster this Metis happened to be.
The guide of the departed souls, is it?
And the monster's title only helped to further confirm his suspicions. Sure enough, Metis summoned a powerful undead army. Too bad. Jin just so happened to possess the best type of class within this field.
Arise.
Accompanied by painful screams, soldiers began rising up from the shadows of the undead. Their numbers were in the several hundreds. Compared to Metis' army, this number seemed completely ill-matched, but it was actually more than enough for him. Because the real deal was somewhere else. That's why.
Create a path for me.
Soldiers emerged from Jin's shadow. These guys were the real deal. While the hundreds of soldiers created from the skill's shadow extraction brought them time, Jin's direct subordinates, the ones he paid careful attention to leveling up ever since his entrance into the demon's castle, carved out a path for him. His designation was obvious. Igris and Iron took the lead and with frightening speed destroyed the opposing undead creatures. The distance to the boss, Metis, had closed up in an instant.
This should be enough.
Jin quickly shoved past and rushed out in the front.
Dash!
Skill level of dash has increased.
Thanks to him running around all over the huge demon's castle, the dash skill had risen up a level.
Nice.
A grin formed on Jin's face. Jin escaped from the undead army siege and stood before Metis in an instant. Their gazes collided midair.
You didn't expect this to happen, did you?
Jin's gaze was filled with victor's leisure, and Metis could only flinch from that. No, he thought that the monster flinched.
Do monsters feel fear?
Such a thought only lingered for a second before Jin's daggers left behind dozens of after images.
Plop!
The boss-level monster weakly fell to the ground. He already knew through experience that magic-type monsters relying on controlling others to fight were very weak when the battle became one-on-one. The more he fought Metis in the distance, he had envisioned this end. Jin returned the daggers to his inventory. Soon, the expected message popped up.
Ring! You have defeated the guide of the departed souls, Metis. You have earned 200,000 experience points.
Yo, Courier, it's good to see you. How's it going? Oh, it's going fantastically. We are currently on chapter 74. Once I get done with chapter 75, I am going to take a short break, and then we will pick up again with the remaining chapters. But it's going smoothly. Had a little bit of a sound issue in the beginning, but I fixed it. But it will be fixed in post.
You have discovered souls of demons sealed within Metis's pendant. You have acquired 220 souls of demons. Level up. Level up.
Jin clenched his fist tightly. 220 souls in one go. Now that was an unexpected windfall.
Collected souls of demons. 9,971 out of 10,000.
A thick smile floated up on Jin's lips.
Not much remaining now.
He only needed to collect less than 30 now. It was a small amount to quickly fill up by hunting down a handful more demons. Jin really wanted to quickly finish this quest, and so hurriedly retrieved all the loot and entered the floor transfer magic circle.
Which floor would you like to transfer to?
76th.
The Eastern United States. Huang Dong-su writhed this way and that as if he was having a nightmare before he shot up from the bed.
Huh?
The first thing he saw was the white ceiling. Dong-su tilted his head at these unfamiliar surroundings.
Is this a hospital?
It wasn't. It wasn't a dream. Dong-su wiped the strand of cold sweat traveling down to his chin. It was at this point that he discovered the patient gown he wore and the IV needle stuck to his arm. Dong-su's expression hardened in fury, and then he spoke in a cold voice.
If you have something to say, hurry up and say it and leave.
The deputy director of the Hunter Bureau was there with him in the room, a middle-aged Caucasian man with more white than black on his head, slowly approached Dong-su's bed.
There's something I wanted to ask you personally, so I waited for you to come here.
What did he want to ask? Dong-su raised his head. The deputy director held his gaze without backing down and asked,
That man called Sung-il Hwan, was he really a monster?
Do you think I'd attack someone who was a human?
I'm not saying that I don't trust you, only that I wish to confirm what I saw with my own eyes.
The deputy director pushed forward his phone towards Dong-su. A certain video footage was playing on its screen.
And this is
footage captured by CCTV cameras nearby on that day. In the footage, one could see an Oriental man rescuing employees from the collapsing Hunter Bureau building. There was no need to ask who that man was. How could Huang Dong-su forget? That face was the last thing he saw before he blacked out. I love how they're putting this. That man was Sung-il Hwan. The deputy director's complexion darkened.
I have never heard of a monster rescuing humans before. Is there no change to your opinion that this man is a monster?
He's definitely a monster.
Understood.
The deputy director pocketed the phone.
Once you're discharged from here, stop by the bureau. There are a couple of documents you need to sign.
Dong-su asked the deputy director as the latter was about to turn around and leave.
What happened to that man?
He disappeared after fighting you. We're in the midst of tracking him down, but he's powerful enough to knock you down easy, so whether he could be caught or not is, well... Just before he stepped out of the hospital room, the deputy director opened his mouth again, sounding more troubled than before.
By any chance, do you have any idea where that man might head off to?
Seeing Dong-su resolutely keep his mouth shut, as if he had nothing more to say, the deputy director quietly left the room. But once he was gone, Dong-su furiously yanked the IV needle out of his arm, and then he says in expletive, "What a humiliating defeat that was." Even before he could figure out what happened, he found his neck trampled on by Sung-il Hwan. Not only that, shamefully cowering on the ground, too. Just as he began gasping for air, Sung Il Wan spoke to him, and that's where his memory ended. Once he brought his consciousness, he found himself. Once he regained his consciousness, he found himself there.
Can't close my eyes even in death? What did he mean by that?
Was that a threat to kill Dong Su in such a brutal way that he'd be unable to close his eyes?
How dare he threaten me?
Dong Su's clenched fist began shuddering in rage. Not only did he lose to a monster, but that man also managed to inflict an unforgettable disgrace on Dong Su as well.
I know where he will go to.
Dong Su would do anything to catch that man. But how? Didn't matter whether that jerk's identity was a monster or not, there was no denying the fact that he was strong.
I need better equipment if I want to kill him.
Thankfully, it wouldn't be hard getting his hands on that equipment.
I should call my guild.
The guild Huang Dong Su was a part of, Scavenger, was one of the very best in the world. Heck, there was even a joke during the rounds that if one were to tally up the value of all the artifacts in possession of the Scavenger Guild, it'd be easy to exceed the annual budget of a small nation.
If I get my hands on some artifacts, there shouldn't be a problem.
Ooh, that's funny hearing you say that, knowing what I know. Madness burned bright within Dong Su's eyes. To South Korea! That was Dong Su's next destination.
You have defeated a superior demon. You have earned 2,200 experience points. You have acquired 1 soul of demons. You have acquired 3 souls of slave demons.
I did it!
Jin couldn't hide his elation. His luck was good, and he acquired 4 souls from the very last demon he killed. With that, he was able to meet the quest's clear goal.
Collected souls of demons, 10,001. You have completed normal quests. Collect the souls of demons. Your rewards are now available. Will you confirm the rewards?
Obviously. Once he made his reply, the list of rewards popped up in his view.
The following rewards are now available. Will you accept them all?
Other rewards did catch his eye, but right now, the first one on the list demanded the most of his attention. It wouldn't be much of an exaggeration to say that he completed this quest solely for the first reward, too.
Accept the first reward.
You can choose from any of the items available from this system. Is there an item you want?
An item he wanted, was it? Of course, there was one. From the moment he saw the details of this quest, Jin was thinking of a certain item. What kind of a result would be facing him now if he chose differently back then? He was curious about this ever since that fateful day. However, he didn't know whether that thing was treated as an item or not. Still, it didn't hurt to try at least.
You can choose from any of the items available from the system. Is there an item you want?
The system asked him again, as if to urge him on. After a short deliberation, Jin made his reply.
The cursed item box.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 74. Onwards to chapter 75. When we get that, I'll take a short break, and then we'll pick up with 76, 77, 78, 79, and then 80. Still making good time. Chapter 75. Back when he found himself standing on a crossroad, Jin chose the blessed random box instead of the cursed random box. And the result of that decision was the key to Demon's Castle. Thanks to that, he gained entry to this instant dungeon and earned a lot. His level had risen up greatly. He acquired lots of items, and as for gold, well, it was overflowing to such an extent that he was beginning to think he should start spending some very soon. Even if I was given a chance to do over, I'd have chosen the same. However, just because he chose to take this path, that didn't mean he was not curious about the potential result of choosing a different path. The blessed random box was supposed to give him what he wanted, and the cursed random box that was supposed to give him what he needed. Just what could be inside the latter? I did get what I wanted from the blessed random box, that's for sure. And so the perfect chance to satisfy this curiosity once and for all had landed in his lap. His heart began beating a little faster his heart began to beat a little bit faster than before. Jin quietly waited for the system's answer. He thought that its reply was slower than usual.
Ding!
His anxiety turned out to be groundless, though, because the system did reply soon afterwards.
You have chosen item curse random box. The chosen item is now available.
A small box slowly materialized in front of his feet. Yes! His heart beating much quicker now, Jin hurriedly picked the box up. However, he was suddenly overcome with this feeling that the weight of this box was rather familiar to him. Could it be? He quickly ripped the lid open and confirmed what was inside, only for his eyes to grow very large. Is this? Upon exiting the demon's castle, Jin headed home right away. He just wanted to take a shower and clean himself. While he was stuck inside the dungeon, he didn't even get to wash his face once. He could buy all the water he needed from the store, sure, but there was no space or time to wash inside the dungeon. I mean, there are monsters everywhere in that place, so just where would I find the leeway to take a shower? Arriving home, he immediately entrusted himself to the cascading warm water. Only then did the fact that he left the dungeon feel like reality. Yup, being home is the best. Changing to a new set of clothes, Jin left the towel on his wet hair and settled down on the edge of his bed. It was now time to get some things organized. First of all, he summoned his stat window. Status.
Ding!
A long wall of text that managed to almost disorient him popped up in front of his view. Jin's gaze stopped at the status column.
Stat points available to distribute 20.
The additional stat points he earned as the quest completion reward were still waiting for him. And of course, he put them all into intelligence.
Ding!
Stats: Strength 178, Endurance 130, Strength 178, Endurance 137, Agility 147, Intelligence 149, Perception 119. Finally, Intelligence had exceeded other stats. It was still some ways off Strength, but when considering the fact that he didn't even pay attention to the Intelligence stat until recently, this growth could only be called lightning fast. Strength, Endurance, Agility, Intelligence, and Perception. A good balance between them had been established now. Not one of these stats are useless to me. As it so happened, he had gone through stages of seriously investing in each of his stats, and now he knew full well the effects and advantages each stat brought to the table. Hold on. Now that things had come to this, how about him raising all of his stats equally from now on, instead of focusing only on one? An all-stat player. Play on words to all-star player? He's an all-stat player. Suddenly, the desire to become one gripped him tightly. What a happy dilemma to have this was. Something only possible because it felt like not one of his stats was lagging behind others now. Once intelligence rises past strength, I should start slowly raising the others too. Making up his mind, Jin shifted his gaze to the skill window next. That's where he discovered the third reward.
Reward 3. Unknown reward.
He thought that the first reward, the item he wanted, and the second reward, bonus stat points, were more than enough, so he didn't pay all that much attention to the third reward. Maybe he was just mildly curious. Was that it? But, well, he already got the reward, so no need to be shy now, was there?
Reward 3 has been made available.
Along with that message, a scroll similar in size to the entry permit appeared in his hands. Jin's eyes opened wider at this unexpected level of challenge. The unexpected type of reward. Where did I get challenge from? Jin's eyes opened wider at this unexpected type of reward, and he unfurled the scroll right away.
Recipe: Divine Water of Life. You can learn the crafting methods of Divine Water of Life.
Jin's eyes widened even further. I can craft an item with this? And here he was, thinking that only those who had awakened as mage types could craft weapons containing magical energy. Now that he thought about it, though, he was also a mage type, wasn't he? Still, to think there was a way to craft something with just a recipe like this. Jin's heart began palpitating, but a question formed in his head at the same time. Just what could he make here anyway? What is this divine water of life? Jin read the information on this divine water of life written inside the recipe.
Item: Divine Water of Life. Rarity: S. Type: Consumable. A mysterious liquid medicine that cures any and all illnesses through the powerful magic contained within. The effect will only manifest after one whole bottle has been consumed.
Cures any and all illnesses? The moment he read that information, he thought about his mother, still confined to the hospital. He had already confirmed through Jinno multiple times that effects of various potions still worked on other people. If he could truly make this divine water of life, then it meant that he'd be able to save his mother. His hands holding the scroll trembled from excitement. The ingredients were also on the simpler side, so to speak. Fragment of the World Tree. He earned that after killing Vulcan on the 50th floor. Spirit water from the Forest of Echoes. He got that after killing Metis, the Necromancer, on the 75th floor. And finally, purified blood of the Demon King. This item hadn't shown up yet. However, thinking back to the two ingredients that had come out so far, he could easily guess where he might find some of this purified blood of the Demon King from. The upper floors. I'm sure it's with the final boss of the Demon's Castle, probably on the top floor. In other words, simply by clearing the Demon's Castle dungeon, the ingredients to craft the divine water of life would fall into his lap one by one. It happened then. A gasp of epiphany leaked out of his mouth, completely unbeknownst to him. Don't know where that yawn came from. A gasp of epiphany leaked out of his mouth, completely unbeknownst to him. That's how surprised Jin was. Could it be that the item he wanted as per description on the blessed random box said, could that be this divine water of life? Mom. Thinking about the possibility that he'd get to see his mother again, all healthy, his eyes began welling up with emotions. Then a new message popped up.
Ta-ring! You can learn crafting skill via Recipe Divine Water of Life. Will you learn this crafting skill?
The mechanical beep brought him back to his senses. Fast. In order to craft this divine water of life, he needed to clear the demon's castle first, meaning he had to quickly get himself prepared and return to that place. He had no time to waste on sentimentality like this. I'm acquiring it.
You have acquired crafting skill for item Divine Water of Life.
I'm not dreaming, right? As if to imply that his memories were functioning fine, a new column called Crafting Skill appeared on the Skills menu.
Crafting skill. Consumable. Divine Water of Life, 2 out of 3.
The numbers behind the name probably indicated the 2 ingredients he already possessed: the fragment of the World Tree and the spring water from the Forest of Echoes.
Ah, right. Up.
Jin summoned his inventory and retrieved an item stored right next to the spring water. It was a necklace seemingly carved out from skulls of various small creatures.
Item. Demon Sovereign's Necklace. Rarity, S. Type, accessory. Agility plus 20. Intelligence plus 20. When worn together with Demon Sovereign's earrings and Demon Sovereign's ring, set bonus effects will be unlocked. Set effects 1. Locked. Set effect 2. Locked.
The spring water from the Forest of Echoes wasn't the only loot he got from killing the guide of the departed soul's Metis. Indeed, this rather vile-looking necklace also came out too.
Why are all the designs of all the necklaces I found so crappy?
Jin frowned deeply while recalling the appearance of the dog collar he was currently wearing. He slowly brought the Demon Sovereign's necklace closer to his neck.
Ding! Will you replace Gatekeeper's necklace with Demon Sovereign's necklace?
Both necklaces boasted rather similar additional effects. Both raised 2 of his stats by 20 points each. However, the Demon Sovereign also had the set effect to consider as well.
Replace.
You have equipped item, Demon Sovereign's Necklace.
The skull necklace disappeared from his hands, only to be replaced by a dog collar. He quickly shoved that dog collar into his inventory and checked the newly unlocked set bonus of the Demon Sovereign's accessory set.
Item, Demon Sovereign's Necklace. Set bonus 1. All stats plus 5. Set bonus 2.
Not set bonus, but set effect. Sorry, it's just a muscle memory to say that.
Set effect 1. All stats plus 5. Set effect 2. Locked.
All of my stats rose up by 5 points.
He only managed to unlock 1 set effect, yet he received a boost similar to leveling up 5 times. And then he still had 1 more unknown effect to go, the one he'd receive after gathering all the accessories.
The Demon Sovereign's ring.
When considering the possibility that the last unlocked effect from all 3 accessories being in one place should be even greater than the individual parts on their own, this really was already an amazing performance. However, acquiring accessories rated at S was only a part of the harvest he enjoyed after entering the Demon's Castle. The real benefit was his level jumping up so high. Jin stared at his level that had climbed to 77 and smiled in content.
I leveled up 16 times inside a week.
Such a leveling up speed was unthinkable when entering rank C dungeons. He had definitely extracted suitable compensation for going through, well, heck for 7 days. He still had some unfinished matters there, but well, this week's conquest of the Demon's Castle should be called a roaring success, regardless of what.
Just that.
Except for one, there was one thing he couldn't really figure out yet. Jin let the light from the lamp fall on the object that came out of the cursed random box.
Just what the heck is this thing?
It was a pitch-black key that seemed to absorb all light. No information popped up in his view either.
This is the first time seeing an item with absolutely no information.
The keys to instant dungeons could be seen as pretty common, since he got them from random boxes every now and then. But this guy here, he had never seen anything quite like it.
Where am I supposed to use this?
Perhaps because it came out of a box named Cursed Random This and That, he couldn't help but think that there was this ominous aura circling around the circle. He acquired this key through so much hard work, so he couldn't even throw it away.
Well, I'm sure I'll get to use it sooner or later.
The cursed random box was supposed to give him something that he needed after all. Jin stored the mystery key back inside his inventory and got up from the bed. He needed to purchase a few artifacts if he wanted to completely conquer the demon's castle.
And I've got something to sell, too.
However, there was a problem, and that was things would become quite complicated if a rank E hunter wanted to buy and sell high-ranked artifacts. Who wouldn't suspect something was off when a low-ranked hunter knows someone right at the bottom tried to sell an item that even the top hunters found hard to acquire? Also, I muted because food is on the way. Awesome! It was the same story if he wanted to buy something. As long as the title of rank E followed him around, there would always be questions regarding the sources of his income.
And it'll be hard to answer when someone asks me about what I'm planning to do with expensive artifacts, too.
Several troublesome situations would unfold at this rate.
Which means I should.
Time to stop pretending to be a rank E, then. Time to get the rank reassignment test. It was now time to get the rank that matched his current set of abilities. Jin's expression became serious.
With my current level, surely I won't be jerked around by someone else.
That was his original aim to begin with. In order to avoid situations where he was being under the thumb of someone stronger, he continued to act as a rank E, while taking on all the inconvenience that came along with it. However, what about now? He didn't even falter slightly when Yun Ho, the guild master of the White Tiger, stood in front of him. Heck, he was pretty confident of not cowering no matter who stood in front of him now, be that Baek Yun Ho or anyone else. He saw no reason to hide his powers anymore. When he made up his mind to finally get rid of that irksome rank E tag for good, his heart began beating faster and faster.
But before that, there was something
he had to confirm first. Jin switched to his hunter-only smartphone. It was his first time powering the device on in a week, so naturally there were quite a lot of missed calls and messages waiting for him. The majority of those numbers he failed to recognize. It was an unfortunate thing for those callers, but well, he didn't have the time to manually check each and every one out.
If they're in a hurry, I'm sure they'll contact me again.
Thinking coolly like that, Jin scrolled down the list of contacts and eventually located the number he wanted. He dialed this number.
La 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 la.
It's just a song going la la la, so I'm making it up. The bright, energetic pop song didn't even get to play for a second longer before the other side hurriedly answered the call. Maybe Jin stayed inside the dungeon for far too long? Because he was surprised by how nice it felt to hear the kid's voice again. A smile spread on Jin's lips as he spoke.
Did the talk with your father go well? Oh ho.
Now that was a good piece of news to hear. Jin made this call to confirm because he couldn't go ahead and do the rank reassignment test if Jinno hadn't made a deal with his father yet. However, if the matters of that side were taken care of, then there really was nothing holding him back at this point. He guessed the good news just from hearing the kid's excited tone of voice, but now that he got the confirmation from the horse's mouth, Jin was feeling really happy as well. Click.
What was that?
The phone call abruptly came to an end, and when he checked, the battery in his phone was flat.
Oh, right. Even before entering the demon's castle, it didn't have much charge left, did it?
Well, at least he got to confirm what he wanted to confirm, so that was a relief. Jin fixed his clothes and prepared to leave. The main building of the Hunters Association wasn't too far from here. He should be able to go through the reassignment test pretty quickly.
Oh, hang on a second.
Jin was just about to leave the apartment, but he hurriedly came back inside. He had forgotten all about his little sister. Since she might get worried if her Opa left home again without saying anything, he scribbled a simple memo and placed it on the dining table. Well, he only came back home after a whole week of absence, after all. With a satisfied smile on his face, Jin turned around to leave. It really had been a while since Jin last came to the Awaken rank evaluation application kiosk. Has it been 4 years already? Or maybe it was close to 5 now. Jin's expression was full of reminiscence as he stood in front of the employee manning the reception kiosk. The employee didn't even bother to look at him and spoke. Please jot down your identification and contact details and give them to me. Jin still remembered most of the process, so he had prepared them before coming here. He readily presented both his identification and the contact details. The employee's head tilted this way and that after taking one look at Jin's choice of identification. Isn't this a hunter license? It is. The employee formed a confused expression. If you are unhappy with your assigned rank, you should head over to another department. No, it's not that. I wish to take the reassignment test. Eh? The employee continued to alternate his gaze between the hunter license and Jin's face, before raising a trembling finger in the air. Please, wait for me here. The employee then quickly ran over to a middle-aged man with a scowl on his face, sitting somewhere behind him. Manager, a hunter nim wishes to take a reassignment test. A reassignment test? What's that person's rank? It's an E. The manager craned his neck out and took a look at the waiting Jin's face over by the reception desk. He then reverted back to his previous posture. There are guys like that every now and then. Hunters who are not satisfied by the reality of their situation and swim inside daydreams before coming back here hoping against hope. So is that guy also? The manager nodded his head. Reawaken my foot. Others are busy raking in the dough as hunters, getting famous and all that, but well, he drew the short straw and he ended up as a nobody. So he's just trying to escape from reality. Uh-huh. Dealing with guys like that will only tire you out, so just tell him that he'll be paying the fee for the test and send him on his way to the measurement room. Roger that. The employee no longer looked like he was suffering from abdominal pain and returned to his seat. Meanwhile, the manager alternated his gaze between the employee and Jin, clicked his tongue before shifting his attention back to the computer monitor in front of him. However, the fingers of the manager stopped typing on the keyboard. The name written on the hunter license. Why did it feel like he had heard of that name before from somewhere? Where was it? Once the young hunter left for the building with the measurement room in it, the manager sneaked in closer to the employee and asked him, That ranky hunter just now, what was his name again? It's Sung Jinu. Do you know who he is? No, it's not that, but he just couldn't get over this feeling that he had heard of that name before. For sure. The manager did his absolute best to jog his memories, and then his eyes widened as something did enter his mind. Ah! That man asked for a favor, didn't he? That man asked the manager to give him a call if a hunter named Sung Jinu ever showed up here. Why couldn't he remember that sooner? The manager sought out a deserted corner and hurriedly pulled out his phone. Ring, ring. Hello there, Chairman Bake. I'm calling you because of the hunter you spoke about the last time. The man named Sung Jinu. He really came here today. But how did you know that he might appear here? Yes, he was here just now, applying to get a reassignment test. The conversation came to an abrupt halt and an awkward silence pervaded the line. However, only a short while later, an urgent voice came out from the phone speaker. The manager began tilting his head. Did he just mishear that? The master of the one and only White Tiger Guild was speaking with an anxious voice. Well, I'll be. Besides all that, though, I kind of spoke with a southern drawl, my bad. Besides all that, though, the evaluation process was out of his hands already. The manager could only sheepishly reply while scratching the side of his head. That man must have entered the measurement building by now. And that is the end of chapter 76, and this is where I'm going to take my break. Because since I have food on the way, I am actually going to wait for that food to get here, then eat a little bit of the food, then continue with the remaining chapters, and then eat the rest of my food afterwards. So for now, as I do, I am going to go on my lunch break, and we will be right back once I've eaten a little, and we'll continue with chapter 76 onwards. I've been revitalized with energy. I'm going to be honest with you. You guys may or may not have noticed, but I kind of flubbed a couple of words here and there. And I was yawning just a little bit, and that was messing me up. I apologize for that. This will not happen for the rest of the read-through. But now that we're about to begin chapter 76, I'm going to go ahead and take my lunch break. Do whatever it is you have to do, because it may be a while. Well, you won't be the only one eating? Awesome. It's nice that you're getting food too. But now I'm going to go ahead and take my lunch break, and then we'll continue with chapter 76 after it's done. I'll go ahead and put it in chat so people know, just in case we get anybody who shows up. But back in a bit, it's time for lunch. All right, everyone. I want to say my sincerest apologies for this break being so long. Don't worry, it'll be cut out in post. All the people stopping by, and it was just silence because I was on my lunch break. Sorry about that, folks. Let's begin with chapter 76. I'm revitalized. I had some food. Let's begin. Chapter 76. Wait a minute. This just what on earth is? What happened just now? Manager Jeong Ki-soo ended the call with Baek Yoon-ho and tilted his head. It was already a pretty surprising thing that a Ranky hunter stepped forward to get reevaluated, yet the master of the White Tiger Guild wanted to find out about the result of that test right away as well. Maybe there's something going on for real here. It wasn't just anyone but Baek Yoon-ho, and he was being quite serious, so Ki-soo couldn't help but wonder if something big was about to happen. But soon, he shook his head dismissively. There's no way. The phenomenon of reawakening was a very rare occurrence. How many months had it been? There was this incident a few months ago when the whole association had been in an uproar over a potential candidate who had gone through a reawakening. Of course, it was all a big fat nothing. That just served to illustrate how rare the real thing was, and plenty of so-called reawakening all turned out to be nothing more than just simple misunderstandings. I mean, it's not just one or two kids who come here mistakenly believing that they've gone through a reawakening, only to walk out of here before paying the cost for the test out of their pocket. Perhaps the White Tiger Guild was seriously mistaken about something here. Still, considering Ki-soo's relationship with that guild, he just couldn't refuse outright to humor the guildmaster Yoon-ho's request. Hey, listen, I have to go somewhere for a little while. Pardon me? Where are you going, Master Jeong? I just remembered this little thing I gotta take care of in the Block B. The term Block B was a sort of code word used by the association employees to refer to the building where the magic power evaluation took place. Okay, I understand. If something happens, call me right away. Yes, manager. Even though Ki-soo was thinking reawakening my behind, he nevertheless headed towards Block B while picturing the face of Yoon-ho, who should have left the guild offices by now. Jin parked his butt on the very last spot available of the waiting room's bench. Currently, there were 3 people waiting for their turn here. All of them looked quite tense, nervous. Jin could sympathize with what these people were going through inwardly at this moment.
Well, the direction of their lives will be decided with the results of today's evaluation, after all.
The first time Jin came here, he was thinking about the exact same things as these people. What if I was a rank A, nor even a rank B, or could it be I'm a rank S? Swimming in a happy daydream only to be shocked to the core after receiving the evaluation of rank E. Thinking back to that day 4 years ago, Jin couldn't help but smirk slightly.
What is he smiling about? How can he even think about smiling here?
Others waiting around sent him weird looks, but Jin didn't pay them any mind.
Was he born with a steely heart or something? Maybe he's not feeling nervous at all.
Seeing Jin's undaunted attitude, others became a bit sheepish and tilted their heads this way and that before shifting their gazes away.
Nothing much has changed since then.
Jin also remembered something similar happening back then. Back then, he started paying attention to the person sitting next to him for no reason, and he also became curious about what other people's evaluation was going to be like. Jin continued to smile while slowly studying the interior of the waiting room. Just like the people waiting outside, the building didn't change much either. The Hunter Association itself was established less than 10 years ago, so perhaps unsurprisingly, the building was still clean and neat as if it opened its doors only yesterday. The interior layout was pretty much the same as back then, too. If there was one thing different, then it'd be
those people over there.
When Jin quietly stared at a contingent of men and women decked out in clean-cut business suits across from where he was, and Ajusi, sitting next to him, opened his mouth.
They're all from various guilds, apparently.
Various guilds, is it?
Yes. Well, hunters don't usually seek out smaller guilds, so they resorted to sending people over here and set up camp, just so they can sweet-talk awakened like us after we're done with the evaluation.
Indeed, there was a certain chilly, unfriendly, and competitive air circulating among these folks. And the way they are looking in this direction is pretty predatory, too. Well, there was a reason for that.
I'm telling you, this is because it might help you, but you see, it's better not to sign up with guilds like theirs.
Oh, wait, no. There's an old dude speaking to Jin. Sorry, I read that whole thing wrong. Sorry.
They're all from various guilds, apparently.
Various guilds, is it?
Yes, well, hunters don't usually seek out smaller guilds, so they resorted to sending people over here and set up camp, just so they can sweet-talk awakened like us after we're done with the evaluation.
Indeed, there was a certain chilly, unfriendly, and competitive air circulating among these folks.
And the way they're looking in this direction is pretty predatory, too.
Well, there was a reason for that.
I'm telling you this because it might help you, but you see, it's better not to sign up with guilds like theirs.
Why not?
From what I hear, smaller guilds take on lots of dangerous raids, and their hunter fatality rate is far higher than average, too.
Jin nodded his head in agreement. At the end of the day, the circumstances of smaller guilds would always remain a bit ambiguous. Unlike privately organized freelancer-led raid parties, clearing low-ranked dungeons wouldn't satisfy them financially, but then again, the skills of the hunters signed up with them wasn't quite good enough to clear high-ranked dungeons. So, accidents happened frequently during their raids.
Which means recruiting new hunters become doubly important for them.
And so they arrived at a point where they had to follow the potential newbies right into the association building and prey on them.
Which means recruiting new hunters becomes doubly important for them.
And so they arrived at a point where they had to follow the potential newbies right into the association building and prey on them.
Ah, right.
Ajusi dabbed the sweat drops away from his wide-open forehead with a handkerchief and cautiously extended his hand towards Jin.
Well, it's fate that we meet like this, so how about we introduce each other? My name is Yoon Jong-hoon. I'm Sun Jinu.
Their introduction was kept to a minimum and they quietly waited for their turns.
Next, please.
Since the location for the evaluation itself was open, one could easily read the expressions on those who finished the test as well as the employees performing the said test. And the expression of the guy who had taken his test just now didn't look so good.
I guess it's either a D or an E.
Those folks from the smaller guilds must have thought about the same thing as Jin, because they showed no interest whatsoever even when an awakened walked right past them. Wasn't that too honest a reaction from them? Jin even began wondering if there was another, more discreet way to find out one's evaluation results or not. Brijesh! Hello! Hi, how are you? I just got done with my lunch break, so we are continuing with chapter 76. Jin even began wondering if there was another, more discreet way to find out one's evaluation result or not.
Next up, please.
Yet another result came out. This one also must not have been so good. The steps of the awakened walking out of the building seemed heavy. But that was par for the course, really.
Well, if high-ranked hunters appeared frequently, if high-ranked hunters appeared frequently, they wouldn't be paid big bucks anyway.
For regular citizens, even being a rank C would be a huge jackpot. Back from lunch? Welcome back! I just got done a little while ago myself. Ate one half. I'll eat the other half once I'm done. For regular citizens, even being a rank C would be a huge jackpot. One could still earn a fair bit of money by entering freelancer raid parties. Or, if one's luck was good, then entering large guilds was a viable option too. Indeed, there were 4 rank Cs among the White Tiger Guild's new recruits, weren't there? If one successfully managed to enter a large guild, then it was pretty much guaranteed that you'd earn an annual salary similar to what doctors or lawyers made. Ajusi next to Jin spoke again.
I heard that you'd get a ton of money up front when signing with a huge guild.
Ajusi's hand, still holding the handkerchief, trembled slightly.
Actually, I owe some money, you see. Because of that, I had to separate from a little girl and must live alone for the time being. Maybe it's because of that, but I'm feeling really nervous.
Ajusi mumbled to himself before flinching grandly and bowed his head to Jin in a hurry.
You're saying something unnecessary to a stranger I just met. I'm a bit of a disgrace, isn't it? I ended up talking a lot when I'm nervous, you see.
No, it's fine. Jin smiled gently and lowered his head as well. Ajusi continued to take deep breaths as if to reinforce the notion that his earlier declaration of feeling nervous wasn't an exaggeration. Meanwhile, another awakened walked out and...
Next up, please come this way.
And it was the turn of Ajusi. However, Ajusi cautiously shook Jin's sleeve, his face full of cold sweat. Could he be feeling ill somewhere, thought Jin.
Are you feeling okay?
Jin asked, his voice sounding worried. Ajusi shook his head.
No, it's not that, but, do you mind going ahead first? I'm too tense right now, you see.
Ajusi looked really desperate. Was there a reason to refuse when someone wished to give up his spot in the queue? Jin quickly accepted the proposal. Anyone would be feeling nervous if these few minutes determined the rest of their lives. Jin stood up instead of Ajusi and walked over to the association employee. The employee spoke in a business-like manner.
What is your name?
It's Sung Jinu.
Mr. Sung Jinu. Right. Please place your hand on the black-colored panel over there and wait for a little while.
Following the instruction, Jin walked over to the measuring device and placed his hand on the black panel.
This guy's already been evaluated as an awakened ranked E?
The employee took a look at the documentation and glanced at Jin with a mystified expression. Just why were almost all the hunters coming here to retake tests all rank E? The employee's expression changed to that of apathy as he activated the measuring device. Bzzz. The magic energy measuring device buzzed noisily, and a short while later, it stopped its operation. The results appeared on the display monitor. Huh? What's going on here? The employee tilted his head this way and that. People tend to do that a lot in this story, tilting their heads this way and that. Before speaking to Jin, as the latter was about to take his hand off the panel. Hold up, please. Yes? I'd like to run the test one more time. Okay. Jin placed his hand back on the panel. Huh? But something like this never happened before. The expression of the employee gradually hardened. Why was the measuring device malfunctioning all of a sudden? The employee asked for Jin's cooperation once more. I'm truly sorry, but one more time, please. Even before he was asked to take the test again, Jin had already decided to wait and thus didn't bother to lift his hand away from the panel. Why is the device not behaving like this? Cold sweat drops formed on the employee's forehead. People observing from the waiting room gradually grew aware of the fact that something weird was going down right now. What's going on? Did something happen? How many times did he activate the measuring device just now? Kinda looks like there's a problem here, doesn't it? When everyone's gaze is focused on him, the employee became completely soaked in cold sweat. Ah, come on! What do you want from me? Just as the employee was becoming a nervous wreck. What now? Where's Chang-sik? Why are you alone here? The employee quickly looked behind him, and he found manager Jiang Ki-soo from the rank evaluation application department standing there. Manager Jiang! Relief formed on the employee's face after an unexpected reinforcement made his entrance. The senior officer went to the bathroom just now. That fool, how dare he vacate his position in the middle of office hours? Ki-soo couldn't bring himself to finish that sentence. Huh. I'm the same, isn't it? Whatever the case may have been, he did arrive at the perfect time. The poor newbie employee was sweating out buckets while the senior was nowhere to be seen. Perfect indeed. Time for a veteran to step forward then. Okay, so what's going on? Ki-soo displayed a bit of interest and took a step forward. The measuring device is acting a little weird. The device is what now? Please, take a look. This error message keeps popping up. Once the employee took a step back, Ki-soo stood in his stead in front of the monitor that displayed the result of Jin's measurement. And right away, Ki-soo's expression froze up. How long have you been working here? It's been around 6 months, sir. Did I press the wrong button? No. Just call Chang-sik and tell him to get over here right now. Excuse me? I'm saying his toilet break or whatever isn't important anymore, so tell him to get his behind over here right away! Ki-soo raised his voice. The employee flinched and asked, What's the matter, manager? This isn't an error message, but it's saying impossible to measure. Don't you understand what that means? Huh? But that wasn't an error message? Why was every single newbie employee such an idiot? Ki-soo's gaze left the employee and landed on the person taking the evaluation test. How can such a thing? Sung Jin-woo, the master of the White Tiger Guild, wanted to know about this man's reassignment evaluation results. Love the manager voice? Thank you. I think it adds character. Ki-soo's gaze remained locked on Jin as he opened his mouth to speak to the newbie employee. You idiot. This message means that this device can't measure that person's magic power. Excuse me? But doesn't that mean? Did this newbie say it had been around 6 months since he started working here? Forget about 6 months. Something like this had not happened in the past 2 years, so of course it wasn't surprising at all to see a newbie employee being completely oblivious. Kisu's voice trembled as he replied, "Right. He's a rank S." Rank S. Special. This rank had been in wide use, so people mistook it for an actual official rank. But in reality, this rank simply existed to group those awakened who couldn't be measured by any device. "That's why. Call Chang-sik right away. Hurry!" "I'll call him immediately." A short while later, Kim Chang-sik ran over in a fluster after receiving the call. His breathing was heavy and fast, and he was even trying to fix his falling pants. "Okay, let me see." After confirming the monitor, Chang-sik's complexion paled immediately. And then, when he looked at Jin, Chang-sik's eyes quaked powerfully. "This man is the 10th in South Korea." Chang-sik quickly walked over to Jin. It was only at this point that Jin withdrew his hand away from the black panel. "Excuse me, Mr. Sung Jinu, with the current device." Chang-sik immediately remembered that Jin was already a hunter, so he changed the way he addressed the youth. "No, wait. Allow me to start over. It's impossible to measure your magical energy output with this device, Sung Jinu Hunter Neem. We need to ask for permission from the higher-ups if we want to use the precision measuring device. So would you mind if you come and visit us again in 3 days' time?" Chang-sik followed protocol and spoke the official line. He couldn't even remember properly the last time he said those words. Jin was an inexperienced hunter himself too, and he immediately figured out what those words meant. Fine. Fine. Postponing the evaluation. Or in other words, once the test result of impossible to measure also pops up in the precision device 3 days later, then he'd definitely be rank as an S. This is for the better. If he was judged to be a rank A now, then he'd have to raise his stats again and come back here again. However, being a reawakened was already an incredibly rare thing, so what would happen if he were to say that he awakened once more on top of that? People would see his reawakening as luck, but if something like that were to happen again, he'd no doubt receive gazes of suspicion. He definitely wanted to avoid getting mired in annoying complications and waste his valuable time. Whew. Jin sighed in relief inwardly after seeing this rather fortunate turn of events, and then when he turned around to leave. Huh? Everyone present inside the building was looking at him weirdly. I know that you're an extremely busy man, so it'd be fine even if you didn't come personally to visit me, you know? Even then, you're the one and only Chief Park of the Hunter Association, so how could I dare use a mere phone to speak to you? It's only correct and proper I come to see you personally. Oh. I know that, even then you're the one, wait, Choi Jong-in, yeah, it says Choi. Even then you're the one and only Chief Park of the Hunter Association, so how could I dare to use a mere phone to speak to you? It's only correct and proper that I come to see you personally. Choi Jong-in smiled with his eyes and buttered up to the other guy, 40-something Chief Park, calling the latter to let out a gentle chuckle. Just who was this man in front of Park? He was none other than the man leading South Korea's top guild, the Hunters. Also known as the Ultimate Weapon, Choi Jong-in. Just one word from him and the country's most powerful raid team would mobilize like a slick, well-oiled machine. A man like that was fawning over you, so how could anyone feel bad about that? Choi pulled out a cigarette, pulled out a cigarette and asked, "Will it be fine if I light one up?" "Oh, please, go ahead." "What about you, Chief Park?" "I'm fine, thank you." Choi, relaxedly sucking in the cigarette, exuded the air of a man who had achieved everything there was to achieve pretty early on in his life. Is this that elusive thing called charisma? As the Chief Park stared at him as if he was bewitched, Choi Jong-in threw out a question. By the way, it sounds like Block B is a bit noisier than usual today. Block B, you say? Chief Park looked out the window in at Block B. Truth be told, Chief Park couldn't hear anything at all. However, Choi Jong-in was a rank S hunter. His 5 senses should never be compared to that of a regular person's. If Choi said it was getting rowdier down there, then something must have happened for real. An honorable guest had come to visit. So what a shameful blunder this was. Chief Park frowned slightly and spoke up. Let me go and find out what's happening. No, wait. Choi discarded the cigarette and killed it with his foot. I'm also getting curious, so... Choi Jong-in raised his head, and a mysterious flash of light could be seen in his eyes for a moment, and an equally mysterious smile formed on his lips. Why don't we go together? And that is the end of Chapter 76. Onwards to Chapter 77. What is going on, CDs? I hope your day's been great. Chapter 77. The entirety of the Block B had become deathly silent. Just now. Definitely impossible to measure. Does that mean that guy's a rank S?
I've only ever heard of it, but seeing an impossible to measure rank with my own eyes is...
The recruitment agents dispatched by various smaller guilds were busy swallowing dry saliva. That's 2! The fact that we only got 2 and we're only, 3 more chapters from being done? That's a record. We barely got any swallow dry saliva comments throughout this entire reading today. The recruitment agents dispatched by various smaller guilds were busy swallowing dry saliva as they stared at Jin turning in their direction. However, none of them tried to talk to him. If he was a rank C, then they would have started a war of nerves trying to sign him up to their respective guilds. They would have formed the proverbial queue just for a chance to talk to him. What about a rank B then? They would pounce on him like crazy while throwing around quite attractive-sounding offers, such as guaranteed spot as a high-ranking officer in the guild, or shares in the guild, etc., etc. Onlookers would probably see it as an all-out war or something. Well, it was not such a weird thing when considering the value of a hunter rank B, or the fact that they would receive a fat bonus by luring a high-ranked awakened like that to their guilds. There were enough rank Bs who fell for the sweet talk, after all. They would rather prefer to be the head of a snake instead of the tail of a dragon. However, the story changed when it came to a rank A. A rank A would be showered with a crap ton of special privileges by entering large guilds, never mind small to medium guilds. Being selected as a member of the main raid team was a given, and since the main raid team only targeted high-ranked dungeons, the financial reward would be quite enormous as well. Was that all? If the offers of the guilds weren't to your liking, you could just establish your own guild and become its master. You could just make a smaller medium guild by yourself, so was there a real reason to sign with one? Indeed, rank A's were that kind of existence. However, this man, who got his magic energy measured just now, was supposedly a rank S. Not an A, but an S. It might be an easy thing to say, but the truth was that single letter was only used to denote the very best awakened in the country, with only 9 of them existing in South Korea.
With that man included, it'd be 10, isn't it?
The 10th rank S hunter. This youth was not someone these headhunters from the various small guilds could ever attempt to talk to. Nope. All they could do now was to silently swallow their saliva. In the same chapter, okay, now it's 3. He was literally a pie in the sky to them. But it was then.
Wait a minute. Couldn't this be my opportunity?
A handful of quick-witted scouts suddenly had this remarkable idea. How about acting as a middleman, guide this new rank S awakened to a large guild, and get paid handsomely for their efforts? The contract signing fee for a rank S would easily exceed tens of billions of won, at the least. Just 1% of that fee as their commission would prove to be a good enough incentive to quit their current guilds. And if one got lucky and got on the good books of that youth to become his personal agent, then heck, you'd be set for life. Didn't a personal agent of some rank S hunter get a Porsche as a birthday present or something? Should I try it? My silver tongue won't lose to anyone, anywhere, so should I just man up and jump in? Within a blink of time, all sorts of thoughts entered and exited the minds of the scouts. The ridicule of the failure would only last for a short while, but the sweetness of success would last forever. Just as the scouts sneakily glanced at their peers and began inching forward, someone suddenly pointed towards the entrance of the Block B. Huh? Isn't that... Was it because everyone was so tense already? No one could tell who did it first. Everyone seemingly shifted their gazes over in the direction the first man to open his mouth pointed at. The eyes of the scouts widened immediately. Ugh! A man wearing a stylish business suit was entering Block B. There wasn't a single person present who didn't know that man's name. Choi Jong-in? Why is the leader of the hunters here? Sure enough, Choi Jong-in felt the gazes of the crowd and lightly tidied up his suit before walking straight towards Jin. But isn't this too fast for him to get here after receiving an alert? No, wait a minute. Did he already sign up with the hunters? Did the hunters know about him? Well, the top guild sure operates on another level, no? Yup, is expected. Scouts present all readily accepted the inevitable conclusion to come. Perhaps it was a relief that none of them stepped forward and tried to chat up the youth. How embarrassing would it have been when one of them started yapping on and ended up running into Choi Jong-in instead? Only now did they realize the direction this situation had taken. Well, with Choi Jong-in's entrance, the picture is complete. Hey, this is so cool. To think that the leaders of the Hunters Guild had personally stepped up. Indeed, treatments for S ranks are totally different from the rest, no? Although the scouts did feel a bit rueful, they nevertheless witnessed the scene of the leader of the South Korea's top guild meeting with the awakened blessed with the highest rank there was, with warm expressions on their faces. On the other hand, Jin was breathing a sigh of relief at the grand entrance of Choi. What a relief. He was pondering what to do next after being stared at by so many pairs of eyes. But what a wondrous timing it was, that man walking in and dividing the attention. Jin inwardly thanked Choi for providing some unexpected help and simply walked past the latter. And Choi's eyes widened in surprise. Huh? That can't be right. Choi hurriedly called out to Jin. Excuse me, can you stop for a second? Jin stopped walking away and turned around to look. Choi's eyes gleamed brightly as he stared into Jin's face. This man's the 10th. Choi beat around the bush with Chief Park about checking out the situation together or some such, but the truth was he already had sensed what was happening before coming here. I mean, they've been yapping on so loudly about impossible to measure this and device error that, so how could I not hear them? Thanks to that, though, he was given a huge opportunity here. This guy was a rank S. A rank S! By signing this man, the Hunters Guild would then boast the services of 3 S ranks and be able to brush shoulders with the best guilds in the world, never mind those found in South Korea. How could he not salivate over that prospect? That's kind of close, but it doesn't count. We're still at count 3. There's no need to borrow a measuring device either. Just a short meeting of their gazes, and he immediately sensed the depths of the youth's strength. Without a doubt, this guy was the highest grade hunter there was. Heck, Choi saw absolutely no reason to wait for 3-4 days at all. Choi cleared his throat and formed his trademark smile. I'm Choi Jong-in, the leader of the Hunters Guild. Of course, Jin knew that already. Well, that man's face could be seen frequently enough whenever a TV was turned on, after all. Jin wondered briefly why such a famous man was trying to talk to him after coming all the way to the association, but well, he didn't have the leeway to ask for the clarification. Jin sneaked a glance at the clock mounted on one of the walls.
It's already 10 to 6.
If he thought about the time he needed to go there, then he was cutting it pretty close. When Jin formed an expression that implied, "Okay, you're done with your introduction, so hurry up with what you want to say," Choi became a bit flustered as he continued on.
Well, actually, I'm aware that you just had your awakened ranked evaluation.
Yes. By any chance, have you thought of a guild to join?
No.
A bright smile formed on Choi's face when he heard that reply.
Yep, it's done.
One of the top 3 guilds in the world. Hunters. What a sweet title that was. From today onwards, it'd not be a simple daydream anymore.
You're mine.
Choi's chest puffed up with happiness and spoke the line that might be recorded in the annals of history.
I'd like to speak to you regarding that issue, so can you spare a minute to talk, please?
Sorry, but don't have the time. Jin quickly voiced his refusal and hurriedly left the Block B building.
That's funny. That's so funny. It was funny in the anime. It's still funny here.
It happened so fast that Choi didn't even have the chance to think about stopping the youth from leaving. Meanwhile, the association employees and the scouts from other guilds belatedly realized what had transpired and began freaking out.
What the heck?
Wait, did Choi Jong-in get kicked to the curb?
No wonder who sees it. No matter who sees it, he was ignored.
The waiting room became very noisy all of a sudden. Choi did his best to maintain his calm and looked to his side.
Chief Park? Yes?
Chief Park replied with an awkward look on his face.
Did I make a mistake during my introduction?
Well, I wonder. I'm not sure. Obviously, Chief Park heard everything as he was standing to the side. Still, this wasn't the right time to say that aloud, no? When Chief Park shut his mouth, Choi sheepishly scratched the side of his head.
Was I too careless with my approach?
Still, there was no reason to feel disappointed here. Without a doubt, he was one step ahead of other guilds.
I'm the only one who knows about the appearance of the new Rank S.
The remeasurement was scheduled for 3 days later. There was still some time left until the official announcement.
Before that, though, I gotta find another opportunity to talk to him, no matter what.
Wasn't there a good way? While Choi began pondering his options, he spotted someone else hurriedly running towards the building. Wait, isn't he? Now that was definitely a familiar face. When that man pushed open the glass door and entered, Choi spoke up with a surprised expression on his face. That cough was creeping up on me.
Chairman Bake? What are you?
Yoon-ho's eyes also widened after recognizing Choi.
Master Choi?
Choi quickly deciphered Baek Yoon-ho's expression.
It's like he knows he's been busted.
It was not very likely that he came running after an informant rang him up just now. No, the time of his arrival didn't make sense if that was the case.
I mean, the distance between the White Tiger Guild offices and the Hunter Association is great, so...
That's right. Yoon-ho knew from the get-go. He had prior knowledge regarding what would happen here.
Meaning he knows about the existence of that man already.
But that couldn't be. If so, he'd never let that man go through the reassignment test in this fashion.
If it were me, I'd make him sign the contract first and then let him take the test.
It was here that the scattered puzzle pieces in Choi's head began falling into their respective places.
No way. Could it be?
The White Tiger Guild, the incident during their training, the Red Gate, the Mystery Helper, and then the newly appeared Rank S Awakened. Now everything made sense. Found him.
So it was that man, huh?
Bake was completely out of breath. He must have ran really hard and fast to get here. Most likely he had not left that man to his own devices. No, the master of the White Tiger Guild actually couldn't stop the youth, even if he wanted to. Bake, surprised Pikachu face. Exactly. Choi stared at Bake and formed a knowing smile. You let him slip through your fingers. Because he wasn't the same as Bake. Thanks for the opportunity. Choi didn't say anything else and relaxedly walked past Bake. Meanwhile, Bake took a look around. He couldn't spot Jin anywhere.
Am I too late?
Bake could only look on at the distancing back of Choi and softly sigh. Who knew that the master of Hunters Guild would be at the Hunters Association? Bake scratched the back of his head and muttered to himself.
Things just got complicated.
The visiting hours of the Seoul Ilshin Hospital ended at 8 in the evening.
Are you the guardian of the patient Park Young-hee?
That's correct.
You can go and see her. Are you aware of the visiting hours cutoff time?
Yes, I'm aware.
Finishing his chat by the nursing station, Jin quickly walked to the patient ward his mother was in. Thanks to his hurried steps, he arrived there not too long afterwards.
Pling.
Jin opened the door and entered the ward, and quietly sat down on the chair next to the bed his mother was lying in. She seemed to be in a deep slumber.
With her like this, it's like she'd wake up at any moment now.
A slumber that no one could wake up from. It was a new type of illness that appeared with the advent of the gates.
I heard from someone that this hospital alone has over 10 patients suffering the same illness.
Jin gently held his mother's hand.
Mom.
Thankfully, the life support machines using the magic crystals as fuel managed to stop Mom and her hand from wasting away, even though she had been in a coma for many years now. However, magic crystals were expensive. The magic crystals to fuel the life support machines for a month cost over 5 million won. A youth in his early 20s would never have been able to afford such a fee if it weren't for him working for the Hunters Association and was qualified to receive their medical aid scheme. Because he had been working his butt off until now, he was able to hold his mom's hand like this. However, everything would change soon. He would no longer simply be satisfied with her still breathing like this, and actually be able to cure her outright. The divine water of life, the cure-all the system had gifted him with. Whether it'd work or not was something to worry about later. Right now, crafting it was his first priority.
I'll save you.
Mom did her best to stabilize the family when his father went missing, even though she never enjoyed robust health. Not too long from now, he'd get to see her up on her 2 feet again.
Please, just wait a little while longer.
How long did he sit there by her side? Jin finally pushed himself up after a lengthy vigil. Ending his definitely not short visit, Jin wordlessly walked out of the ward and carefully closed the door behind him. And when he turned around to leave, he got to spot a familiar face standing in the corridor. On that day, it was you who killed the monsters in the dual dungeon, wasn't it? A low and thick manly voice, sharp, scary eyebrows. He was none other than Woo Jin-cho from the monitoring division. Jin didn't reply. There was no reason to, nor did he particularly feel like it either. Instead, there was something else he wanted to ask.
How did you find out that I was here?
I tried to guess the places you might head off to. I called the hospital and they informed me of your presence here. The association was paying for Mom's hospital fees after all.
Well, that's going to change soon.
It was possible that Woo Jin-jul checked the hospital first before anywhere else. Should he chalk that up to the swift nature befitting the monitoring division? Jin let a smirk form on his face.
Did you seek me out just to ask me about that day's events?
No, I did not.
Well then, how can I help you?
There is someone who would like to speak to you. Would you mind accompanying me for a little while? The infamous monitoring division of the Hunters Association. The main role the monitoring division performed was to watch and manage those high-risk hunters, as well as to punish those who broke the law. From a hunter's perspective, they weren't really a welcoming presence. Of course, Jin's gaze wasn't too friendly either.
Is that an order?
No. Wu took his sunglasses off. He then deeply bowed his head, his voice sounding much more serious than before. I'd like to ask you for this favor. Jin didn't expect Wu, with his fearsome countenance and all, to assume that kind of attitude. Jin pondered a little before deciding to find out who wanted to meet him first.
Who wants to talk to me?
Wu raised his, I gotta be careful saying Wu and W's and R's close together. Because I would say Wu raised his head, he raised his head only then. Wu raised his head only then. It's the president of the Hunters Association, Go Gun Hee. Wu then pointed towards the corner behind him and spoke. The association president is currently here. And that is the end of Chapter 77. Onwards to Chapter 78. Chapter 78! The office of the president of the Hunters Association. The facial expression of the doctor examining Go Gun Hee wasn't so good. He removed the stethoscope from Go Gun Hee's chest.
President.
No need to say it. I can already tell from the look on your face.
Go Gun Hee chuckled gently as he buttoned up his shirt. The doctor couldn't bring himself to say anything. President Go, what with the state of your health? You walking around like this is a miracle in itself already. Even then, the president of the association did not show any signs of slowing down. He actually didn't even have the time to stop by at the hospital and had his personal doctor come to see him at the office instead.
Actually,
President Go slid his arm in the sleeve of the jacket and spoke.
Back when the healers began appearing here and there, and healing magic was discovered, I thought that for sure I'd be able to regain my youth, and that I would be saying bye-bye to this terribly inconvenient old and decrepit body of mine.
Gotta take a sip. Keep the vocal cords good for those deep old man voices. Go then chuckled again.
However, the truth didn't work out that way.
There was no improvement from the treatment, sir?
It seems that this thing called age is beyond the capability of the high-ranking hunters and their magic. If the healer-type hunters could heal any and all types of...
He's not reading anymore, sorry. If the healer-type hunters could heal any and all types of sickness with magic, then without a doubt every single hospital in the land would have closed up and doctors would have ended up on the street begging for food. But fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, such an event didn't occur, only speeding up the regeneration. The healing magic was limited only to healing the external injuries. Although magic could miraculously cause the amputated arm to grow back, it could not lower the temperature of a child sick with the flu. Well, thanks to that, I managed to not end up as unemployed, though. The doctor stared at the president of the Hunters Association, getting ready to leave the office. If only I could borrow magical power as great as the president's and cure him in full. However, both the healing magic and the modern medicine couldn't do much at this stage. All this doctor could do was to offer his advice. You need to maintain calm no matter what, sir. Also, you need to take a regular break, even if it's for a little while.
I wish I could do that as well.
Unfortunately, if he did take a break, then just what would happen to the Hunters Association? Go used his gentle laughter as a replacement for his words.
An association without Go-Gun-He, is it?
The large guilds were spending huge sums of money to grow ever larger even at this very moment. Their might already equaled that of some nations' military forces. The only reason why the association could still flex its muscle among these guilds was because of the presence of Go-Gun-He as its president, not because the government was backing the association. The moment the association lost its trump card, the hunters would become reinless wild horses and run amok.
Not just yet. Yes, not just yet.
Indeed, he couldn't retire just yet. The association was the only rope that could rein them in. With no viable alternative in place, how could he even think about leaving the scene?
In order to show how robust and healthy the association is, I must stay.
The rank S above all other rank S ranks. Indeed, the name of Go-Gun-He was a must-have. So until that time, he must... A pained moan leaked out of Go. He grabbed his chest and the tidy shirt crumpled under his grip. "President, take this!" The doctor brought along a pill of painkillers and a glass of water.
Thank you.
He could just barely regain his bearings after ingesting the painkiller. It was then... His phone issued a ring, but he ordered no one to disturb him when his doctor was here. Go frowned slightly and picked the phone up.
I'm with my doctor at the moment.
It was at this point that the urgent voice of his male PA came from the phone speaker.
Did the Japanese call again?
Go's eyebrows quivered slightly.
A bigger problem than the ants of the Jeju Island.
Just what could it be?
Tell me what's going on.
Before the patience of Go had the chance to run out, the PA replied in the nick of time.
From the evaluation division. Why?
The role of the evaluation division was to assign ranks to various gates as well as to newly awakened. Such a department wouldn't be a likely candidate to cause much trouble.
Or could it be?
Did they make another blunder with assigning a gate's rank? Thinking back to the debt he had to owe the White Tiger Guild not too long ago, Go's expression crumbled a little, but his unhappiness lasted only for a short while. The news conveyed by the PA easily exceeded the scope of problem Go had been expecting.
The president of the Hunters Association, Go-Gun-He? Did I hear that right?
Jin doubted his own hearing just then. A man often referred to as the most powerful hunter in South Korea wanted to talk to him and chased him all the way to this hospital?
This must be some kind of joke.
Just as Jin stood there, not wholly convinced, Wu pointed behind him, further driving the point home.
Yes, the association president is here.
Wu looked a bit anxious as he waited for Jin's reply. The current atmosphere definitely didn't come off as suitable for throwing around dumb jokes at all.
He must be telling the truth.
Why was someone like Go-Gun-He looking for him? A powerful curiosity suddenly invaded Jin's mind. The only thing he could think of was the result of the rank reassignment test he took.
Is it to lure me into signing with the association?
However, the association was a non-profit organization. Its president wouldn't necessarily show up with the top agent from the monitoring division in tow just to headhunt a lone hunter. Besides, Jin hadn't even finished with his evaluation yet. The more he thought about it, the more curious he became regarding the president's reasons.
Okay, I will.
Jin finally agreed. Wu formed such a bright expression that the anxiety of a second ago seemed like a lie long forgotten. Thank you very much. His voice sounded incredibly earnest just then.
This odd you see with that stone wall of a face can also form such expressions, huh?
Jin was inwardly surprised as he followed after Wu. When they walked past the corner, he could see an old man sitting in one of the waiting room chairs.
So that must be...
Jin swallowed his saliva. That's 4!
The heaven above heaven. The S-rank hunter Go-Gun-Hee, also known as the sky above the sky. After discovering Jin, Go stood up from the seat. You must be Sung Jinu Hunter Neem. He might be over 80 years old, but his physique was still quite amazing. Indeed, his size reminded of either a retired pro wrestler or a traditional grappler. However, he didn't emit any of the overbearing aura one might expect from someone like that. That's surprising. Judging from his appearance or his station, Jin expected him to be a bit of a douche, stuck-up sorts, yet the entourage accompanying that man carried scarier expressions instead. Yes, I'm Sung Jinu. Jin replied. Go extended his hand for a shake with a bright face. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Go-Gun-Hee. The two men shared a short handshake. Go pointed towards the chairs in the waiting room, already rearranged in a way that those sitting there would look at each other. Why don't we have a chat after taking seats? Thank you. Jin sat down first, and Go too parked himself on the opposite chair. Jin inadvertently caught the glimpse of a golden badge pinned to Go-Gun-Hee's jacket. This man currently served as a member of the National Assembly, and at the same time as the president of the association as well. And a rank S awakened on top of that. Go wasn't someone anyone could meet just because they wanted to. One couldn't even count the number of people who wanted to speak to this man, be that the giants of the financial and political world as well as big shots from other countries. That was why Jin was getting even more curious now. Why was someone like Go seeking him out so urgently? And now that he thought about it, after Choi Jong-in, it's the turn of Go-Gun-Hee, is it? Just in one day, he ran into two men who could proudly boast the title of the best in a row, even though he wasn't officially confirmed as a rank S yet. Go began speaking. I'd like to congratulate you on becoming the newest rank S hunter. Jin tilted his head. But the result of the reassess assignment test hasn't come out yet. Go shook his head immediately. Actually, the test itself does not have much of a meaning. Excuse me? While Jin formed a confused expression, Go was forming a gentle smile. The truth is, the so-called precision measuring device is used to draw a finer line on the level of one's power. It's not designed to sense something that already has exceeded the scope of other devices' measuring capability. Then, how come? Do you wish to ask me why we created another process called re-evaluation? Indeed, he did want to ask that. If the end results were going to be the same, then why go through yet another cumbersome process? Go answered in a rather straightforward manner. It's because we were looking for a grace period. A grace period? Even before Jin could ask what he meant by that, Go spoke up first, looking somewhat embarrassed. It's to create an opportunity where we can meet and speak to someone like you, Sung Jinu Hunter Neem. Ah. Listening to the association president, Jin finally figured it out. As you may well know, there aren't that many excellent hunters in the association. Like Division Chief Wu Jinzhou here, compared to our size. That was because of large guilds. And that's because of the large guilds. But, of course, Jin nodded his head. Signing up with a large guild guarantees you fat salaries and fame, so who would want to come and work for the association? The salaries for the association's hunters weren't small by any means. But then again, when compared to what one could potentially be earning by working for large guilds, the salary was pitifully pathetic. It was the same story regarding fame, too. There are some people who can recite the names of every member of a large guild's main raid teams, but you will have a very hard time trying to find someone who knows the name of our division chief Wu Jinjol.
Hearing the term members of the main raid team, Jin recalled the rank A hunter Kim Chol. His perception stat allowed him to grasp another's capability. From Jin's perspective, Wu was definitely a level higher than Kim.
They both might be rank A's, but the gap in their skills are pretty obvious.
Jin took a deeper look at Wu. Perhaps finding the praise of the association president in the gaze of Jin burdensome, Wu lowered his head, looking a little flustered.
But then,
if Kim Chol had made his debut as a hunter without meeting that accident, then he'd have made a lot more money and become much more famous than Wu. That was the difference between a hunter working for the association and someone signed to a large guild.
And so, we came up with a plan in case a truly exceptional awakened decide to visit the association.
So that would be the reevaluation test, then?
well, sure.
If the result of the evaluation was publicly made available and was spread everywhere, would the association have the chance to make an approach like this? It certainly made sense.
I won't beat around the bush and get to the point.
Before anyone had noticed it, that warm smile was no longer visible on the face of the association's president.
We're not a corporation, so we can't promise you lots of money. However,
Go touched his chest area before extending his fist that was gripping onto something.
we can help you in a different way.
I don't understand.
What I'm saying here is that we can help guide you, Sung Jinu Hunterneem, down a very different direction.
His clenched fist slowly unfurled. On Go's palm, a golden badge gleamed brightly.
Political power, is it?
Even after that, Jin maintained a suspicious expression.
I still don't understand.
Pardon?
Is there a reason for you to go this far for me?
That was a valid question. A certain glint flickered in Go's eyes as he continued to gaze at Jin.
To think this young man can still calmly ask what's on his mind without being scared by my background nor influenced by potential benefit right in front of his eyes. Was I in too much of a rush?
Didn't someone say this?
Patience decreases with age.
That concept certainly wasn't wrong. Go suppressed his smile and continued on.
You know about the 5 guilds, yes?
How could anyone not know of them? Jin silently nodded his head.
Currently, you'll find that in South Korea, the heads of 5 large dragons are locked in a delicate balance.
Around the capital, the Hunters, the White Tiger, and the Reapers. And in the countryside, the Shining Star and the Night Order.
If you decide to enter one of the 5 guilds, doesn't matter which one, the delicate balance will shatter and everything will change.
Even now, the status and authority of large guilds were soaring into high heavens. However, what if one of them managed to sign up another rank S hunter and use that as a springboard to soar even higher? Would they listen to the association anymore? The association's sole role was to remain as the center of the balance among the hunters by using power.
It is simply far too inadequate to control and tie down hunters with laws and regulations and the threat of prosecution.
Jin, too, thought like that before. Monsters found in dungeons weren't the only monsters out there. Monsters out there. Hunters were also, in a way, monsters. If one were to look only at the strength aspect, then hunters were far more dangerous monsters than regular monsters found in dungeons.
That is why the association exists.
Go's expression became far more grave.
And the association needs your help, Sung Jinu Hunterneem.
The help from someone like you, who possess great power.
The help from someone like you, who possess great power.
Go's gaze became sharper.
Sure. I'll have to keep an eye on him and find out what he's like, but
as long as... Oh, wait.
Sure, I'll have to keep an eye on him and find out what he's like, but...
But, as long as Jin gave his okay here, the association would support him to the utmost fullest. A rank S was certainly worthy of such an investment, after all.
This should be enough of an explanation.
That was why, for the first time in a long, long while, Go was feeling nervous and expectant at the same time, as he asked the next question in a soft but firm voice.
What will you choose, Hunter Neem?
And that is the end of chapter 78. I got to step away because one of our boys needs to go outside. Then we'll continue with the last 2 chapters of this volume. Don't worry, the dead air will be cut out in post, but I'll be back momentarily. And then we'll continue with chapter 79. But just hold up just a little bit, folks. Thank you for your patience. All right, time to continue on with the last 2 chapters. Chapter 79. That wasn't a bad suggestion. If Go were to lend his support, then even the most average guy would be on the fast track to success. The National Assembly, the government, the Hunters Association, and even the mass media too. It'd be very hard to find a sector that Go's reach did not extend to. Not only that, if the person receiving that support just so happened to be a rank S hunter.
I can't even imagine how far a person like that would climb.
Oh wait,
I can't even imagine how far a person like that would climb.
all of a sudden, Jin pictured himself sitting right next to the member of National Assembly Go Gun Hee while kitted out in a super dope designer business suit. His heart palpitated ever so slightly.
Such an opportunity wouldn't come knocking every day, right?
Even if one wanted to walk down on this different path, Go Gun Hee had suggested, not everyone was qualified to step on this road after all. However, there was one important thing missing from that scenario.
If I sign up with the association, I won't be able to increase my level.
The higher-ranked hunters working for the association never participated in raids at all. Their main role was to deal with other hunters, not to hunt down and kill monsters. And, even if he managed to get permission and participate in raids organized by the association,
dungeons the association deals with are ranked Ds and Es, those that the guilds aren't interested in.
Could he continue on by hunting down low-level mobs that didn't even give him any experience points? No, of course not. Jin strongly balked at the idea.
I wish to become even stronger.
To a higher place. He wanted to climb up as high as he could. Unless it was impossible or there was no certainty, why should he give up on something he was fully capable of achieving? What a nonsensical notion that was.
As long as I keep leveling up, I will get stronger and stronger.
Imagining that caused his heart to thump way harder and faster than imagining himself being next to the association president Go Gun Hee. Go sensed the change in Jin.
His breathing has suddenly picked up. Did he finally make up his mind?
He could only hope that the decision was a good one.
No, it simply has to be a good one.
If he thought about his remaining time. His own anticipation no less than that of Jin's, Go waited for the answer. Each passing second felt like a minute. Jin eventually opened his mouth.
I'm sorry.
Go's expression hardened immediately. I thought
I saw determination fill up his face just now. Was I mistaken?
He couldn't hide the disappointment in his face. In the end, the ambition of the man named Sung Jinu was only about this. He couldn't hide the disappointment in his face.
In the end, The ambition of the man named Sung Jinu was only about this much.
I need another sip. Go wasn't lying about lending support for the other path. Actually, he was thinking of something even greater.
A new rank guest to appear in 2 years.
Go was thinking of keeping this youth close and teaching him the ropes, and if the kid showed promise, groom him to be the next successor. Because a powerful figure was needed to support the association when he was gone, meaning Go was planning to hand over everything he had. However, for the result to be like this,
How laughable I am.
Go took away the golden badge and asked in a dejected voice,
Is it because of money?
Jin replied right away.
No, it's not.
Go snorted inwardly.
They all sound righteous, of course.
However, they were all the same inside. In the end, it was all about the money, and the accompanying fame would be icing on the cake. Would be like icing on cake.
Then again,
chasing after material wealth was an innate instinct found in all human beings, so Go didn't have any thoughts of faulting the youth for that. Only that he found it utterly laughable that people couldn't be honest with themselves.
in that case, why did you say no?
Go asked, even though he already knew the answer. He just wanted to see the youth's response. However,
I want to fight.
Jin's unhesitating reply smacked the back of Go's head.
What did he say?
It definitely felt like he got sucker punched just now.
Did you mean that you want to fight against the monsters?
That's correct. Jin didn't bother with unnecessary explanations and spoke frankly.
I want to enter gates and hunt down monsters. I believe the place I belong is inside dungeons.
How can this be?
Go's eyes widened. A man like him standing on top of many others knew whether someone was telling the truth or lying through their teeth simply from the light emitting from their eyes. The position he occupied could only be reached by possessing such a skill, after all. That was why Go-Gun-Hee knew it.
Those eyes. He's being dead serious.
Go's own eyes staring at Jin did a 180.
How long has it been since I felt this?
By the time Go-Gun-Hee had awakened, his body was already too old. That was why, instead of fighting against monsters, he looked for other things he could do instead. By using the money he got from selling his company, he established the Korean Hunters Association, gathered hunters, and with his fame serving as the foundation, he marched straight into the National Assembly and even had a hand in creating laws that governed hunters. However, there was this lingering regret in his heart that would never go away, even though he worked tirelessly all this time.
If only I was younger by 20, no, 10 years, I'd been with these young people.
Go pressed his hand on his chest. His heart that threatened to quit at any time was pounding quickly, rather noticeably now.
My heart can still make a noise like this?
The rhythmic beating of the heart felt good. On the other hand, Jin was tilting his head.
Isn't this strange?
He refused the suggestion of Go-Gun-Hee, fully preparing himself to be at odds with the association in the process, yet the president seemed to be happy about something instead.
Well, it doesn't matter one way or the other.
He had said what he wanted. He had said what he wanted to, so Jin got up from his seat.
My younger sister is watching the house alone, so I should get going now. Thank you for your time.
Go got up along with Jin and pulled something out from his inner pocket.
And please take this.
It was a business card.
If you require any assistance, don't hesitate and give me a call.
Go was smiling brightly. What Jin said was right. Powerful hunters belonged in dungeons. Although he had failed in recruiting Jin as the president of the association, or perhaps as a fellow hunter, Go Gun He wished to help Jin out however he could. If he were to be more honest, then,
This young man, I like him.
that was why he needed to offer advice as well. Nagging would only come from someone holding interest towards you, after all.
It's impossible to enter high-ranked dungeons by yourself. Please give it a careful consideration when choosing a guild to join. Your choice would change the status quo by a great deal.
After hearing Go's earnest advice, Jin briefly formed a mysterious smile.
Thank you.
Jin pocketed the business card in his wallet, lightly bowed towards Go Gun He and Wu Jinjiu, and left the waiting area.
Whew.
While letting out a sigh, Go plopped down on the chair.
Are you all right, sir?
Wu guessed that Go wasn't feeling good and quickly approached his boss. However, Go smiled and waved his hand away.
No, I'm fine.
Actually, he was beyond fine. What an enjoyable meeting this had been, a first in such a long while. Go Gun He sat there smiling for a long time before turning to his PA and handed out an order.
Clear the schedule for the rest of the day.
But sir, the meeting with the ministers.
Cancel them all.
Go chuckled to himself.
I do not wish to waste this good feeling on those small-minded idiots.
He wished to retain this lingering feel-good attitude for today at least. Suddenly, Go shifted his gaze over to Wu. Seeing that rarely seen smile on the president's face, even Wu began feeling a bit hyped up as well.
Is there something you need, sir?
No, well, it's nothing serious, but, my man.
Go took his time as he scratched below his chin.
How about having a drink with me today?
At this quite unexpected suggestion, Wu could only form an awkward smile.
I'm not very good with holding my liquor, sir. Will that be fine with you?
Uh-huh, I didn't take you for a person like that.
Go playfully clicked his tongue.
Haven't you heard of the old saying about the cup size of a man's drink determining the extent of the world he can make his own?
My apologies, sir.
Wu's face reddened in embarrassment and scratched the back of his head.
I was just kidding with you. I'm feeling rather good right now, and jokes just seem to come out on their own.
Also, the one he wanted to share drinks with was someone else. Go's gaze shifted towards the end of the corridor that Jin had disappeared to.
Hunter Sung Jinu.
How well would he be able to hold his liquor? Thinking that he'd like to find out someday, a thin smile formed on Go's lips. Clunk! Jin stepped down from the bus that came to a noisy stop.
Well, I did escape from there with my sister as an excuse, but...
When he took a look at his watch, it was still too early for her to be home. Jin slowly walked towards his home. Hearing an unfamiliar noise, he turned his head to look and spotted a street lamp that was definitely malfunctioning. That was the funniest sound you heard on my channel. That was me just doing the screeching brakes of a bus. And that's the funniest sound I've made? I was trying to do the sound of a bus screeching to a halt. But that was funny? That was funny to you? Huh. That's new. Hearing an unfamiliar noise, he turned his head to look and spotted a street lamp that was definitely malfunctioning. It didn't sound like that. I know exactly what it sounded like. I'm not going to repeat it, but that's what I was trying to do. I know exactly the sound I made when I was doing the sound of screeching buzz, but I'm not going to do it again. But it's just like, that's the funniest sound I've ever done for you. Hearing an unfamiliar noise. Let me get through this chapter, because we're almost done. Hearing an unfamiliar noise, he turned his head to look and spotted a street lamp that was definitely malfunctioning.
Now that I think about it,
He realized that the street was far too dark. What with this district being so derelict to begin with, just from walking a bit away from the main road would find themselves in a dark and isolated location like this one. It was at this point that a certain news item entered his mind. The case of several murders that has been... Oh wait,
the case of several murders that have been happening around here lately.
weren't the victims supposedly all women? His little sister frequented this road as well. Not only that, late at night too.
Since her school's nearby, we can't just move house willy-nilly either.
He began to get worried now. Apprehending the criminal wouldn't be difficult as long as the murdering jerk had been found, but he couldn't really stand around here every night because of his worries.
Wasn't there a better way?
He stood there thinking with his arms crossed before a smile crept up on Jin's lips.
Well, all I have to do is leave someone else here as a lookout, right?
Didn't he possess the perfect candidates for that task?
Come out.
At Jin's call, shadows soldiers popped up.
5 should be enough.
These guys had leveled up quite nicely during their conquest of the demon's castle. Just looking at them gave him lots of confidence.
From today onwards, you guys will serve as this district's watchmen. Start your patrol.
As soon as he finished speaking, the soldiers melted into the shadow-like state. And then they began moving while weaving in and out of the shades found between various buildings.
That's right. Move around like that and avoid being spotted by other people.
Holy wowzers, what wonderful little kids they were turning out to be. Unless that serial murderer was a high-ranked hunter, he'd never be able to win against a shadow soldier. And even if that murdering jerk did somehow win against his soldiers, Jin would know right away. He was an S-rank hunter, after all.
No, hang on. Since I don't have my revised license yet, should I say that I'm an S-rank awakened instead?
Well, what did it matter anyway? A suburb being protected by rank S didn't matter whether he was a hunter or an awakened. If the truth of a free security system being deployed in this area for 24 hours became known, wouldn't the land price jump up overnight? A smirk leaked out of his mouth.
Very good.
With this, he felt more relaxed. Jin scanned his surroundings once more and turned around to leave while looking much more satisfied than before. I came running because you said you'd buy me a meal, but it's just some measly pork belly? Oh wait, this is someone else entirely.
I came running because you said you'd buy me a meal, but it's just a measly pork belly?
Huh? Are you looking down on the mighty pork belly now? This place is where my great memory of me and my young Nimmark was created, you know. Jino, in his deeply reddened face, put the empty shot glass of alcohol down on the table and snorted out in drunkenness.
Okay, so why did you bring me to this place of such a wonderful memory?
Yu Soo-hyun formed a flabbergasted expression. She was getting ready to sleep, but then Jino called her out of the blue. She found his tearful whimpering rather desperate and pitiful, so she hurriedly came out to meet him, but to think the place he brought her to was a diner. It was obvious for Yu Soo-hyun to be less than impressed by her current situation, when considering the fact that she grew up as a refined lady of a chaebol's family, and also from the fact that she was working as a top model nowadays. Glance, glance. Because she was in a hurry, she threw on whatever and even wore a baseball cap on top of that too, yet the glances from the surrounding men were still flying towards her nonstop.
What's going on? Will you just speak up?
I'm just gonna call her Soo-hyun. Soo-hyun acts while pouring more soju in Jino's empty shot glass. Look at this. This is the phone number of my dear young Nim, right? Still sounding tearful, Jino pushed forward his smartphone. On the screen, one could see the lengthy list of calls. 1 successful call and 4 failed attempts. Even then, the first one that got through was apparently cut short in the middle. In the middle, too.
Wait, did you call me out here because you couldn't reach someone you know on the phone?
Nod, nod. For the following read-through, does it help if I write the current chapter number like Kitty tends to do? It's fine. It's fine. She's currently on vacation right now, so if you want to, fill in that role while you're here, you're perfectly able to. I mean, I always go back through this and I perfectly catalog where I start a chapter each time so that the timestamps can be good so people can be in the section that they want to, just in case they, watch these in the long term. So you can if you want to.
Wait, did you call me out here because you couldn't reach someone you know on the phone?
Nod, nod. Jino's head bobbed up and down. Soo-hyun could hardly believe this crap. She snatched Jino's phone away.
Give me that!
She quickly tapped on the call button.
Ring.
The ringtone got cut off a short while later. When that happened, Soo-hyun began glaring at him.
Hey, you idiot!
Eh? Jino raised his head from the table.
The ringtone cuts out after 15 seconds. That guy's not avoiding answering you, it's just that his phone's been switched off. And if the call got cut out in the middle, his battery must have run out.
Really?
If you don't believe me, call again. Ring.
Just as she said, the signal got cut off after 15 seconds.
Hey, it's for real! It's for real?
Jino's expression brightened instantly.
It's sorted now, right? I'm going home.
Soo-hyun was about to leave without a shred of hesitation, but Jino hurriedly latched onto her sleeve. No! Please hang around until I finish this bottle at least.
Am I and Nuna only...
Nuna! He says, he's not saying no, he's saying Nuna. Nuna! Please hang around until I finish this bottle at least.
Am I and Nuna only on occasions like this one, huh?
And this fool usually called her you this and hey you that all the time, too. In the end, though, Soo-hyun settled back on the chair.
Huh?
Nuna, you also want a drink?
You wanted me to wait until you finish the bottle, right? It's going to take a long time before you solo that bottle, and I can't wait around until you manage that.
As expected, there can only be one Nuna.
Stop it, please.
Even though she replied like that, they began emptying the shot glasses in a fun, relaxed atmosphere.
By the way, who is this Youngnim guy?
You'll find out soon enough. After signing up with the Eugen Guild, that is, Jino was about to say those words out loud, but then his eyes widened slightly after seeing the footage being shown on the TV mounted high on the diner's wall. Isn't that guy? Soo-hyun also turned her gaze towards the TV. The screen showed a news broadcast, and it carried the news regarding a top celebrity named Ri Min-seong, who had gone through the awakening process recently. Standing in front of the huge throngs of reporters, Ri Min-seong spoke as if he was abashed by the attention. The ticker tape on the bottom of the screen said that Ri Min-seong was planned to stop by the Hunters Association soon and take his rank assignment test. Wowzers! As expected of the star of the Korean wave, Ri Min-seong. Look at the number of reporters there. Aren't those guys from the Chinese media? Jino sighed in admiration. However, Soo-hyun simply frowned.
How can that guy lie so boldly in front of so many people?
Eh?
Everyone who's in the know already know it already. Who's in the know all know it already. That's all just a show. He's already been ranked A, you know? He's just playing it up for the cameras because he wants to be the talk of the town.
He's putting on an act? But that symbol of modesty Ri Min-seong is? Soo-hyun clicked her tongue in annoyance.
How come no one has got any clue?
This kind of felt like she was bad-mouthing someone behind his back, but within the circle of those who knew Ri Minseong personally, that man's reputation was the absolute worst. The difference in his personality between when the cameras were around and when they weren't was, as the kids say nowadays, the fourth dimensional wall that no one could cross. That was the type of person Soo-hyun detested the most. If he was just two-faced, then she might have overlooked his faults, but then again, that idiot was notorious for his flirtatious ways, too. Not too long ago, he called her up totally out of the blue and started his shtick, while stating something about being a hunter like her. She had to go through a ringer trying to end that call.
What an unpleasant bastard.
Even before he had awakened, he was infamous for his incredible arrogance. But now that he was about to become a rank A hunter, how bad would it get now? Not only that, it looks like the occasion of him being labeled as a rank A would be broadcast live nationwide, too.
He's really good at using his head for stuff like this, isn't he?
Soo-hyun shook her head and slammed back the remaining soju in her shot glass. And that is the end of chapter 79. Onwards to the last chapter for today's reading. I got a lot of editing to do once this stream actually processes, so bear with me as I set up the timestamps a little bit later on. It might take all day for it to happen, and it might bleed into tomorrow. But just bear with me, so that way, if anyone watches this later, timestamps will be there for you. Chapter 80!
Excuse me? Excuse me? What are you even talking about?
President Kogun, he said that, but he has never done anything like that before, so why now? I'll call you again and at a later date. Sorry, I don't want to keep using this particular voice because this voice is saved for someone else. Click. I'll call you again at a later date. And that's how the phone click, and that's how the phone call ended. The expression of Lim Tae-gyu, the master of the Reapers Guild, wasn't good at all.
What on earth is happening here?
When the leader of this large guild heard the news that after 2 long years a super powerful rookie had appeared, he immediately called his contact in the association. However, he didn't expect to hear this type of answer at all. Taking responsibility after getting fired? Who would be stupid enough to hire an ex-association employee that got personally fired by none other than the association president Go-gun-hee himself? There was no guarantee the recruitment of the mystery rookie would be successful just because his identity was discovered too.
Finding out the guilty ones by any means necessary and punishing them, is it?
Coming from Go-gun-hee's mouth, that sounded plausible. But then, why is the geezer
doing something he has never done before? Maybe he's finally gone senile?
What has gotten into him to forbid everyone from leaking the identity of the mystery awakened like this? This was unprecedented. Thanks to that, the guildmaster of the Reapers had no choice but to suck on his thumb and wait for the official announcement. That wasn't the only thing he felt wronged about, though.
And how did Choi Jong-in and Baek Yoon-ho find out and go there yesterday?
Was it the difference in their spy networks? Was this the sign of the Reaper's influence waning even further? If that powerful rookie appeared yesterday, signed up with either the Hunters or the White Tiger, the already widening gap between them and the Reapers would become impossible to bridge. That was the current situation, yet that inexplicable gag order was blocking the Reaper's path.
Could that geezer have a grudge with me from a past life or something?
When Baek Yoon-ho decided to quit the Reapers Guild and create his own, the White Tiger Guild, it was precisely that geezer who helped facilitate the whole process and made sure everything went smoothly. The ensuing aftermath forced the Reapers off the position of the top guild in the country. Both the Hunters and the White Tiger were already so far ahead, yet the Reapers Guild was circling around in the exact same spot.
I mean, isn't that enough by now? Can't you help out the Reapers at least once?
Suddenly, he began to resent Go-gun-hee. Even then, he still found himself left with no tangible way forward. Lim Tae-gyu could only anxiously stomp on the ground, feeling rather aggravated over this development.
I finished the daily quest.
Feeling lighthearted, Jin began searching the internet. There were 2 more days to the reassignment test. He decided to gather more information on the artifact trade during this time period, so he switched on his computer. As he browsed through the available information on the auction goods, Jin's eyes grew wider and wider.
The minimum starts in the hundreds of millions, huh?
Was that all? Items that looked okay to his eyes commanded an average of several dozen billion.
Then again,
To hunters, good equipment was like their lifeline. There was no need to even mention the obvious fact that using better, more expensive equipment made you safer. Most hunters made quite a bit of coin, and when given the chance to buy tools that would allow them to hunt faster and safer, was there a reason for them to hold back with their money? Jin could understand it. Indeed, he could, but that didn't change the fact that he was taken greatly by surprise. Seeing the pricing of various artifacts, he was getting more nervous by the minute.
I don't think it'll be enough with what I have at the bank.
He didn't find a defensive artifact designed to defend against flame-type damage, but it looked increasingly likely that the amount he had would not be enough to buy high-grade defensive equipment at all.
And I thought I had enough money now.
That opinion was from the perspective of a normal person. As a hunter, it fell far, far too short. He had around 1.7 billion won saved up in the bank. If he were to purchase artifacts he wanted, he definitely had to sell the Orb of Avarice. Now that he was the seller, Jin's expression rapidly changed.
Needing a lot of money to buy an artifact means I can sell my own artifact at a sky-high price.
Click. He moved the mouse and continued to search until the list of the magical tools currently on sale appeared on the monitor. No matter how hard he searched, he could not find a single artifact that doubled the magic damage. The best ones he found had the enhancement of around 20 to 30%, and those artifacts boasted scarcely believable asking prices.
Man, these prices for the magic tools are no laughing matter, aren't they?
When he thought about it, though, the boost of 20% was not small at all. Only the upper tier, no, the very best hunters out there, would be able to afford such an expensive artifact. However, with their already excellent strength being enhanced by 20%, the difference would be quite incredible to behold. The high-ranked hunters knew this point as well, so no wonder they were prepared to shell out big bucks for them. Actually, he could frequently spot the goods being on sale only a moment ago suddenly sporting a sold tag. The 20% artifacts were selling out fast like this, So,
just how much should I sell this guy for?
Jin swallowed his saliva. I want to say that's 5. Yeah, that's 5. That's definitely 5. Not too long ago, he didn't even dare to dream about touching an artifact. Not too surprisingly, he couldn't even begin to imagine how much money others were willing to pay for his artifact at the moment.
That's why there's the thing called auction, right?
He prayed that when he put the Orb of Avarice up for auction, a suitable bid would be called out in the end. With a satisfied smile on his face, Jin exited the auction information page. According to his research, there was 2 obvious ways to sell an artifact. 1, selling it via the official route, or selling it in the black market. However, he had no way of approaching this elusive black market at all. Well, there was a limit to the information one could find on the internet after all.
I mean, if you can access it via a couple of mouse clicks, it shouldn't even be called the black market anymore.
Besides, the Orb of Avarice didn't have any reputable background anyway, so there was no need to go through the black market in the first place. The best available option was to let the artifact specialist handle the bead and sell it via auction. Sure, there was the issue of taxes and commission fee, but this was still the best and quickest method that wouldn't produce any unnecessary baggage in the long run.
So, the only remaining issue would be with me providing the information on where I found this thing.
A ranky hunter showing up with a crazy artifact that shouldn't even exist in the first place. Would anyone quietly accept that? The Korean Hunter Auction House was a huge corporation that oversaw all transactions between hunters. They would surely try to confirm and investigate every single suspicious detail they find.
That is why I need my new license.
The new hunter license with rank S nicely printed on it. He took the reassignment test solely for that license, and the result was a resounding success. If he went by what the association president Go Gun He had said, he'd be able to get his hands on that license in 2 days' time without an issue. He did worry slightly there for a second, thinking that he had complicated the matters by refusing to sign up with the association.
What a relief it is, since the association president doesn't look like that type of person.
Even until they said their goodbyes, that deep smile never left the president's mouth. When one spent a long time always reminding other people's moods, one would become a master at reading the flow. Jin was one such example. He spent 4 years as a Ranky and always had to mind other hunters. That was why he could more or less figure out what was what by simply looking at other people's expressions. Go's expression was definitely not faked. At least that's how Jin saw it. So he shouldn't worry about anything and quietly wait for the reassignment test in 2 days' time.
However, what am I supposed to do in the meantime?
Jin leaned against the back of his chair. 2 days. It was a bit too short to do anything substantial, and maybe a bit too long to do nothing but lounge around at home.
Should I just take a look anyway?
Feeling half interested, Jin moved the mouse to the recruitment notice board in the Hunter forums. Click. 1 click later, and countless recruitment notices filled up his monitor. He quickly noticed a flood of requests from various freelancer raid teams searching for temps nearby this area. The reason for this was simple. When he and Jino monopolized every rank C gate nearby for a little while, many raid teams temporarily lost their livelihood. Perhaps as a rebound, the raid teams that had been sitting idle during that time suddenly went into an energetic overdrive in the last few days. Overdrive. Can't wait to test that out with Rafa in Borderlands. Jin smiled wryly and changed the page.
Well, I won't level up anymore in rank C dungeons anyway.
It took him 1 full day to level up once in the very last rank C dungeon he entered. No, never mind 1 day. He actually needed nearly 2 days for that single level up, and his current level was higher than that time by 15. If there was a gauge for the experience points, then the needle wouldn't even budge.
Rank C gates have no meaning to me anymore.
Unfortunately, he couldn't find a single recruitment offer for raiding higher ranked dungeons. Freelancer raid teams trying to clear higher ranked dungeons was akin to them killing themselves. And the large guilds wouldn't really recruit temporary members like this either. Still, one would never know.
Should I change the search parameters?
Jin changed the search condition and had it display only the results with high-ranked dungeons. Click. Even though he was hoping, he wasn't expecting much at all. However... Something did pop up. You're rank E?
Yes.
You've never done anything like this before?
No, never.
Well, your specialty is?
I'm a close-quarter combat type.
Well, at least that's a relief. The foreman wearing a hard hat swept his gaze up and down over Jin. For a rank E, he's got a pretty impressive physique, doesn't he? His eyes look okay, too. Jin patiently waited for the answer from the foreman. The foreman returned Jin's hunter license and smiled jovially. There are quite a few people similar to you here, Mr. Jinu. Mr. Jin, don't be too nervous, and we'll get along, and let's get along well. I remember that in the anime they always call him Jinu, so I'm just gonna stick with that when it comes to people describing him as such. There are quite a few people similar to you here, Mr. Jinu. Don't be too nervous, and let's get along well. The foreman Ajusi was over 40 years old, yet he was overflowing with energy. As an added bonus, he even sported a cool mustache, too. You can wait here until everyone shows up. Then you can go inside. And don't forget your equipment, too.
My equipment?
You can pick up any one of those lying on the ground over there.
Okay, got it.
Jin nodded his head while looking at the pile of pickaxes on the ground. It was at this point that another Ajusi with a towel draped behind his neck hurriedly approached the two men.
Mr. Pei, our team is also hurting for manpower, so how can you take people away willy-nilly like that?
Oh, that many people's fine for the retrieval team. Hey, will you take responsibility when a problem occurs during the operation and we miss the gate closing down? Even then! The mustache Ajusi spun the towel Ajusi around and grinned at Jin. Mr. Song, why don't you take 5 over there? This fella and me, we're gonna have a bit of a chat.
Hey, why don't we just hash it out right over here? Where you planning to take me now?
Come on, my man, come with me for a second. The two Ajusis disappeared to somewhere while arguing with each other.
The other Ajusi is from the retrieval team, huh?
The sizes of high-ranked dungeons were so great that a single raid team couldn't do everything in one go. That was why the labor was divided. The raid team that cleared the dungeons, the mining team that mined minerals from the dungeon's interior, and finally the retrieval team tasked with collecting the remains of the fallen monsters. Both the mining and the retrieval team entered the dungeon once all the monsters inside except the boss were eliminated. Jin applied to the mining team.
Wait, is this all the so-called equipment there is?
With a somewhat unconvinced expression, Jin picked up one of the pickaxes. Even though it was faint, he could sense the flow of magical energy in it.
Huh, it's got magic energy inside.
Modern technology that utilized electricity didn't work inside dungeons. Because of that, the old-fashioned tools like this pickaxe were used instead, with magic energy enhancing their performance. Once he held the pickaxe tightly, he felt certain. It was not for nothing that hunters in the mining team were roundly berated by others as dungeon miners. Jin shifted his gaze over to the gate. A giant hole was silently floating in the air. A gate with a humongous size that no ranked sea gates could even hope to compare filled up Jin's vision.
So, that's the rank A gate.
That guy was his sole reason for showing up here today.
I want to see high-ranked dungeons with my own eyes.
Even though all the monsters inside, except the boss of course, were dead, he still wanted to confirm the interior layout of the rank A dungeon with his own 2 eyes.
Well, I'll be entering one sooner or later.
Knowledge was indeed power. However, there would always be a limit to learning from books and internet articles. Didn't the newbies of the White Tiger Guild meet with a huge misfortune simply because they had overlooked that crucial fact?
If I wasn't there, none of them would have survived.
Knowing something and personally experiencing it were 2 different things. This is very true. When the opportunity arose, Jin readily applied to enter the mining team in order to get used to rank A dungeons. He did feel a slight pang of regret when holding that deeply uncool pickaxe, but when staring at that massive fearsome gate, such misgivings flew out of his mind.
Looks like I've made the right choice.
He still had some time left to kill until the reassignment test, so what a good opportunity this was. The chat must have gone well, because the mustache Ajusi, no, the foreman Baek Yoon Sik, ran to where Jin was with a smile on his face. Let's go inside. They say they're ready. While gripping the pickaxe, Jin smiled and nodded his head. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we bring this very long reading session to a close. It'll be significantly shortened up with me cutting out the dead air from earlier on. But I do want to say to everyone who tuned in here, I greatly appreciate everyone coming out to see me. And I also greatly appreciate your patience when I had to step away or I had to mute and, because of stuff that was happening out in my neighborhood with all the construction and stuff that's happening. I just wanted to say thank you for being patient. But this is where we're going to call today's session. Once this thing is all processed and I can edit it down, I'll start cutting those parts out. and then I'll get to moving to the timestamps so that way it can line up with everything else that I've done in previous chapters. But with that, all I can say is I am so grateful that I have been reading this novel to all of you, and I can't wait to see you guys the week after next, because next week we skip Monday just so I can rest, and then after that Monday we pick it up again. But I also hope to see you guys when I cover the history of Borderlands tomorrow, because Borderlands 4 is dropping this week and I'm so excited. But we'll save all that talk for later. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples!